That basically, you're asking this question, and hopefully those two fucking idiots are watching this. I hope you guys are. You're asking this question, but we just laid it out. Now, are you going to follow along what was provided to you? But maybe I wouldn't have immediately known, or I would have given a little bit more benefit of the doubt if I didn't know who these guys are.
I'm just getting the same sort of vibes that you get from someone who is like, is it gay to love your wife?
Like, are they even these people being sincere whenever they say this stuff? These guys, no, they're not. One of you I've had on my stream and explained, a lot of shit to you, and I brought up information, I brought up data, I brought up, and you're still doing this shit. So like, clearly asking the question as if just you haven't heard the answer yet, you're bad faith, you're disingenuous, you're a piece of shit. Okay.
I see what you're looking at.
I have seen it. I want to beat those guys up. Like, if I was going to respond to these questions, I would probably say, like, the challenge for even a discussion, right? I'd be like, no, you write down exactly why you think, me or my friends or whoever don't deserve respect or rights. You tell me exactly why that is, and we'll talk about that. But like, yeah, there's some desperate clout sharks for sure.
Okay. And back. Okay, so it has been an eventful week. So some anonymous people were called out. It seems like there were a couple of assholes. Questions. Yeah,
a couple pieces of
that's what I heard.
Motherfuckers.
I heard that too, and I heard maybe they deserve to be punched. From what I've heard, hard to say. But it turns out these anonymous people are actually us. Gotta be honest, you had a little bit more to do with it than me, but I definitely had my part in this. So
screw Pepper.
What could we have done that would cause us to deserve to be punched and to be dumb motherfuckers? Well, it kind of starts. It kind of has something to do with the theme of episode 1 as well. Coincidentally, it goes back to May 30th, I believe, the day before Pride Month began. So there was a gentleman. Yeah. So there was a gentleman on Twitter who said, I am not a cis male. I'm a man. I'm a man who is unashamed of being a man. I'm a man who will not welcome any prefix attached to my existence. We have always been called men, and I don't see any reason for that to change now. And to that, DJ Eric from Eric's Reloaded, he said, this is giving self-inflicted ignorance. Even if you were right about always, which you are not, language and communication changes. This idea of tradition over language is pretty stubborn for absolutely no reason. Yes, you're a man, but even if you don't like it, you're cis. Which seems a little forceful, and it doesn't seem very reasonable or understanding. It seems like very, I don't know what you want to call that, dictatorial. Just, you are this.
Hypocritical.
So, you actually saw this, it was May 31st. I think I said May 30th. I forgot.
Oh, yeah.
There's 31 days in May. It was the day before Pride. But, so you had a response to this. And
I did.
Would you like to read your response?
I said, are you seriously telling someone how they need to identify? My man over here doesn't want to be called cis. He just said that.
To which Eric responded, cisgender is not about personal identity. It's an identifier from trans. You can tell me not to call you cis, but it doesn't change the fact that you are cis. Sorry you don't like language. Which is, a little judgmental.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
So you kind of tried to explain possibly what this guy is thinking.
Yeah, so I said, this guy clearly attaches his personal identity to being a man. He doesn't like being called cis, but you're still doing it and saying too bad. That's like saying, I don't care if you identify as a woman. You're a man, and I'll call you a man. Sorry if you don't like language.
Yeah, it does seem like that, analogy might actually mean something to him. Like, oh, yeah, I could understand that. Maybe I should kind of explain this a little more, a little gentler, because, I don't know, it doesn't seem like he tried to go in with, like, a reasonable explanation of it. It seemed like he was more just, this is what it is. You have to accept this. I don't know. I don't think that that's necessarily going to open the, what do you want to call it? The road to understanding, if you will. To which, I don't know if I missed one because I'm not sure when open-minded people label you because their own logic owned them. I think he sent you the video, and unfortunately I didn't grab that video. I think that was your response to it, where he talked about open-mindedness and I believe why cis isn't a slur. So that's kind of a quippy response. But yeah, to which Eric comes back, I'm not sure why you want to make me your enemy. I literally don't care what you do, man. Be respectful. Don't be respectful. I'm just providing answers to things you asked me. So,
and then I responded and I said, why do you assume I'm trying to make you my enemy? I disagree with you. That's all. When I do, you and your friends try to label me and my friends, and I don't like that. So I'm going to tell you. I think it's time our different groups come together and find some common ground.
That sounds extremely reasonable. It sounds like a very nice request.
And so I said, in addition to that, I said, would you be open to having a discussion about some of these issues to see if us and our friends can actually make some progress? Not a debate. I don't think we'll ever get anywhere with those, but a conversation. And I said, Grey Poupée could host us, or if you'd like, one of your friends could. Happy Pride Month, by the way.
Yeah, that sounds extremely reasonable. So that's kind of the point where I got involved in it. Yeah. But again, it was just to be, just to facilitate the conversation. Or if they didn't want me there, I wouldn't be there at all. It was just kind of to provide a platform so that it wasn't just like, hey, you need to have me on your channel to have this conversation. Because that seems like a big ask. But instead it was just, hey, would you have a conversation? We can meet at a third party. It doesn't have to be my channel, your channel. And if you want a moderator, somebody could be there. And I don't think he would trust me, but I think know that I thought if you're getting too heated, I would definitely, protect somebody from that. That's not what we're looking for. We would like a conversation. So I would think that I'd be open-minded and able to stop either side from going too far. But
I firmly believe that you would be extremely even about it. And if I was being an asshole, that you would stop me.
Oh, for sure.
I don't think that you would. I mean, but maybe you would be biased. But
for sure, we are all biased. But
correct.
Yeah,
you could be being racist and you don't even know. So that's why I said if one of your friends want to host it, I was more than willing to go on to
for sure
Eric's channel, Dane's channel, anyone's channel, and talk about this stuff because I mean people that follow us and people that follow these guys and have seen our interactions. I'm a Jersey guy, but I am genuinely exhausted by all of this infighting. I don't think it's useful, and that's why I saw this going on, and I'm like, maybe Eric's the guy you can talk to because he seemed fairly reasonable, and that's why I kind of jumped on this. But then it goes on.
I thought he also seemed really reasonable. Up until the events that have unfolded in the last week that led to this eventful week, but it seemed like, Eric was actually receptive to this offer, which seemed really cool.
Yeah.
So Eric responded to you. I don't want to debate because I'm not trying to gotcha anyone. That goes nowhere. Agreed. That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's counterproductive. It puts everyone in a defensive position. Yeah, which nobody should be in. That's definitely not what we were looking for. What you were looking for. I don't want to put words in your mouth. But with my talks with both Bob and Ed, I was not looking to get gotchas. I know that's what I've been accused of. So I guess it depends on your definition of that, but that's not what we were looking for. We were looking for actual discussion to, understand. So then he goes on, I wouldn't say no to a discussion, but I would not go into it with surprise topics. So that kind of leads to what's coming up, but not going to commit to a date, but I'll consider it, which you actually responded very cordially to. It sounds like you guys are both getting along here, which is great.
Yeah.
That's what you were looking for.
And I told him, I said, I don't want to debate either.
Mm-hmm.
It's like saying I'm going into this with the intent I'm not agreeing. That's not what I'm looking for. And I agree, no surprise topics. I'm actually looking for common ground and understanding. My goal is to get us all on the same page.
Perfect. Let me think about it. That's not a no. I appreciate the clarification and well wishes. I'll get back to you and let you know soon. Which, it sounds reasonable. So now it's the next day. This is in June now. So it looks like about 6 days later, 5 days after that, you get back to him just to check in.
Yeah. And I said, hey, DJ Erick, I hope all is well. Let me know if you're still interested in talking. No debates. I think we both agree those are useless. You can DM me if you'd like to discuss further. I really want to bring our tribes together. I'm so tired of us all talking past each other.
To which Eric responded the next day, I got you. I haven't forgotten. June's extremely busy for my business, so I don't have a ton of time to be online. I have some prior commitments that I need to fulfill, but we'll reach out soon. To which you responded.
And I said, great, no problem. I figured June would be rough as far as scheduling goes. Looking forward to hearing from you. Talk soon.
That sounds really reasonable.
Really
that sounds
nice.
really cordial.
Yeah.
So you guys then had some DMs that went back and forth. I don't think we have everything, but essentially he asked you, hey, do you want to send me some questions? I'll look over them. So you put some thought into it. You took like a day. You came up with some questions. I thought they were really good questions. You sent them to me and said, do these sound fair? And to tell you the truth, they were in a completely different direction than I thought they'd be. And they seemed really fair to me. And it seemed like a great way to kind of start a conversation. And again, he could say no to any of them to,
sure,
I am okay with this one and this one. Like it could have been anything, you know, it was just, hey, this was where I thought, you know, the topics could start from. So if he thinks they're redundant or no need for any of them, cool. Or he just doesn't like them. But he agreed to them. And then, I think that would be about where this page of DMs comes from. So here we go. So it looks like you reach out and you say, one more question. Since you took the question, oh, sorry, this is from the end. Sorry, where you actually tweeted out and then included this. But sorry, I believe you the blue,
the
right?
DMs. Yeah, so he says, let me put more thought into this and I'll get back to you. Thanks for the comprehensive list here. And I said, you're welcome. Let me know if you need anything from me. And he said, just so you know, I think all these topics are fine. I'll be clear to schedule something in the next couple of weeks for maybe the start of July, if that's cool. And I said, hey, a bit of a night owl, I see, because he texted me very late.
Yeah, it's like 3:30 a.m. So
yeah, and I said first, second week of July would be excellent because I'm gonna have a free house. My girlfriend's going to visit family in San Diego, and be perfect time to speak.
That sounds lovely. It looks like you're giving him like a whole a couple week span that like, hey, these weeks would work out really good for me.
Yeah.
So that sounds extremely cordial and everything, and it looks like everyone was cool with that.
I mean, I'm a great person.
Yeah, and then we noticed a couple things happening on their channels, I should say.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd be able to pop on just because you might be able to explain the cisgender thing better than I would.
So there was a controversy
there's just so many things wrong with this.
I heard about this.
Like, I don't think, or at least, I'm hoping that maybe, that they understand what a slur actually is. I mean, how is this a slur? Is what I'm trying to figure out. Like, it doesn't even remotely meet the definition of what a slur actually is.
Well, so they think it's a slur because they think trans is a slur. They think of transgender as a bad thing. So therefore,
Right, but they're not.
I don't think that's very charitable. I don't know if people are seeing trans as a slur. I just think they're seeing being called something that they don't identify as.
Right.
And then being said, I don't identify as this, don't call me this. And then they repeatedly called it and added like sissy on the end of it. I think that's where that becomes a repeated pattern of behavior. And I thought these guys understood like patterns of behavior, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Well, I mean, it's being used for harassment, and that's clear. Sorry, I'm trying to get the charger at the same time.
Enforcing people who are using trans in ways that are inflammatory. Like they're not actually doing that. So that's what the question I was asking. I mean, I totally get that. Like, that's why they're so mad about it in the first place. But my thing is, if you consider cis to be a slur, then trans would also be a slur. So at the very least, you should consider them both equally.
Well, I mean, like, I think trans could be if you're like calling someone like, I don't know, transy or something. Like, I don't know. It feels like there's some way that you could use that in a slur form that somebody wouldn't appreciate. That could be repeated harassment, I think is kind of the whole thing. Right. But yeah, if you do look at it, it's just either trans or non-trans. All right. Yeah, I guess that's not a slur, but it's kind of that whole, what do you identify as and self-label.
And there's also a lot of confusion here with these different groups, for a period of time. And please, if I'm offending anybody, I know you guys hate intention talk, but it's not my intention. But there was a time where tranny was an acceptable term. And amongst the trans community, as far as I've been told,
there are
and
still some that identify that way
by people in the trans community. So I've actually said that word in conversation, in idle conversation, and somebody pulled me on the side and said, no, don't, that's very offensive. And I said, are you sure? And they said, yeah, like, don't say that. And I was like, all right, I'll pull that one out of my vocabulary. I didn't realize that was a negative term. So people could easily assume cis is a negative term. And I think, I don't want to try to get inside the head of Elon Musk here, but he doesn't say cis or cisgender is a slur. He said it's considered a slur. So, a lot of words are not slurs, but could be considered a slur.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it would be up to each platform to kind of make their own definition of it. So it would be nice if you kind of explained that what is considered a slur on the platform. That might help, because then you could see a whole bunch of words that you normally wouldn't call a slur. If it's used in repeated behavior, it could actually be considered a slur or harassment on the platform. But yeah, I'm sure they'll get more reasonable as they go on.
Yeah,
on the same level, because they're literally the opposites of each other. So
the way I was saying is that they should be embracing cisgender, because it's literally the opposite of the thing they hate.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, obviously
that's kind of a weird self-tell. Apparently he loves everything that's against what he hates. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. The enemy of my enemy is not my friend. I don't know. It's not exactly. I guess I don't understand. Everything isn't black and white, and everything isn't good versus evil. But it appears to be kind of the lens that he's looking at things through.
It's not a valid
please explain to me
but...
how cis could damage someone's reputation.
I think even sir could be a slur. Like, I know that he messed up there. He wasn't meaning to say sir, but it's like, I think if you keep misgendering somebody and just keep calling them sir, I think that could probably be considered some sort of slur. But yeah.
Remember that viral video going around? It's ma'am.
Exactly.
It's ma'am.
I think he would have considered that, she would have considered that a slur at the time. She, her, ma'am.
That's the definition of a slur. It's based on years of systemic issues. That's how a slur becomes a slur.
Don't remember systemic being in the definition.
Gender, and it's been around since the 90s, but no one is going to lose a job for being called cisgender. No one is going to be oppressed because they're cisgender. I'm fucking cisgender. Like, this is not a slur.
Could be.
It's just
depending on the definition
in any form.
And then so my philosophy for months now has been, if you want to argue with me, I'm not gonna do it in comments. I'm not gonna do it in chat. I'm not gonna do it on Twitter. You can come on stream and we can talk. And of course,
you can. He's inviting everybody. Nobody wants to,
because they know that they can be held. That's the thing. They can't be held to any standard if it's just in text replies or whatever. They can die.
Perhaps a sneak peek, a spoiler. Maybe he did allow one person on, and that means that he'll never allow anyone on again. I think, okay, so I'm being a little bit cryptic about this. Patrick, you were the one person who he did allow on one time where he's like, if you want to talk about it, you can come on right now. And then you're like, okay. And then he wouldn't let you on. I think he made you wait like an hour or two. Then he finally had you on. But it was pretty awesome. I think you had a great conversation with him. And then he immediately called you racist, even though you had no talk about race whatsoever in there.
We never brought up race once, and that was
he blocked you, and he will never do that with anyone again, because he's very scared, because kind of showed him he's not on that level that he thinks he's on. But maybe we just happen to have that footage, and that could be a future episode coming up. I thought it was lost forever, but anyway, getting back to that, Dane doesn't do that anymore. I happened to see the other night he put out like a call, like, what, do you want to come on the stream? And then immediately shut down his stream. So he really doesn't put out that offer meaning it anymore. But I kind of feel like Eric definitely wouldn't say the same thing or anything like that, because people have reached out to him to have conversations, and he said, yes, I will do it in the future. So,
crazy to think
they can ignore evidence, but they can't do that if you're just talking to them,
Twitter's the easiest place to just pretend to be somebody else. It's literally like you can just make an account, as many accounts as you want, and call yourself anybody at this point, because it's like the Wild West in Twitter pretty much. So I've said before, like, look, everybody that had an issue with me on Twitter Some of the people in my comments on my video said like, go live one day so we can chat with you direct, like come into the chat and chat with you.
This
I
is
did my first live stream on Monday. It was like an 1.5 hour stream talking about a lot of different subjects, and not one of those people showed up. And I mean, not.
That wasn't the one where he was eating the McDonald's, right?
I don't
was a
think
different
so.
thing. Okay, so I thought that was just mukbang, but
Like,
I didn't go to comment and talk in the chat because we were talking about having a talk. So
yeah,
and I also wanted to be extremely respectful of Pride Month and what they were trying to accomplish this month. So I didn't think that it was my place to be interjecting my opinions or my questions.
Yeah, for sure.
During Pride Month, I just thought that, you know what, that's not
also, he
appropriate.
told you he's busy this month, but next month. So yeah, that makes sense.
None of the people that claimed they wanted to argue with me or debate me or anything like that showed up in the comments. None of them.
Same.
And I had no moderators.
Same shit, he says.
Yeah, well, me and Little Movie Perp, I don't know, over a year ago now, we did 2 streams. Both of them were like heavily promoted. We were both like,
haven't
hey,
seen that
come
guy in a while.
debate us if you think woke is a
Happened
real thing or whatever, and like if you think wokeness is real, whatever it was, we promoted it. We were dedicated the streams to that. The first one, a couple of people were like, yeah, I'll come on in a minute, you know, and then one guy ended up backing out. The other one didn't ever respond. The second one, 2 people showed up. One of them was actually a fan of mine who was just like wanting to argue about some opinion stuff, and he and I are actually cool now. You know, he ended up like that's up on the Initiative channel where he ended up going, oh yeah, you're right. And the other guy was just,
that's all it takes.
That's
you're
also
right.
on the Initiative channel where he
well, that's
it was kind
what
of a
makes
debate,
it cool,
I guess, but like that was the one where he was arguing on behalf of racist white kids and for about the Little Mermaid. And that's it. Like you think
it's
all
a
the
super
people
uncharitable
talk
take.
so much shit.
He's arguing on behalf of
racists. I
racists.
just don't engage anymore because I can tell they're not, you know, they're not going to back it up. They can't back it up. They're afraid to back it up or something.
They also love to, like, one of the things I get very often on Twitter is the people who have nothing to show, like no profile, no picture, a name that makes no sense at all.
That could be me.
But they want to call out the people who are actually putting themselves out there.
I think he's talking about
like with anybody that doesn't have
Morgan
a profile picture.
Exactly. And then they're like, oh, you blocked me. Well, I blocked you because you're no one. You are like, and I don't mean that as an insult. You are literally no one. You could be.
It seems like he's
sitting
calling
behind
himself
that desk,
better than that person,
or you could be nobody. It doesn't matter. You could be Chat GPT. Like you are a person with a fake sock account on Twitter who is now allowed to harass people to no end because Twitter's rules
to no end
very like rarely applied to anybody.
I think there's an end.
Unless you're somebody who is a targeted marginalized group, and then all of a sudden you're obviously, you know, the rules are you can't say cis anymore on Twitter, even though it's a term that can be applied to things, even medical things. But you know, it is what it is, I guess.
It can.
But yeah, so when that happens, I'm just like, what am I even arguing about at this point?
If you guys want to check out some legit, these are just actual.
Okay, so now we get to the start of this week. I guess this would have been like last Sunday. So I guess now it's over a week ago. But yeah.
And I'd like to go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go right ahead.
Actually, no, because I'm going too soon. I got too excited.
This is exciting.
It is thrilling.
Yeah, such exciting times. But yeah, so this would have been like last Sunday. They titled the entire thing like I can't remember, questions from a centrist or something about that.
Enlightened.
Something about like
centrist.
what does a centrist mean? It's just so strange. And then it turns out that it's all about the questions that you sent DJ Eric.
Ooh.
Excuse me.
Eric.
Yeah, because so what? I don't know. Just the way that he built it seems like it's actually going to be something about centrism. But yeah, do you identify as a centrist there, Patrick?
No.
Okay, so neither do I. I've only ever said anything close to that once, and it was in actually one of our videos. I think the first one that we did together. So, I guess that means that I've been upgraded from alt-right in Dane's eyes to an enlightened centrist. Quite an upgrade. But that does also mean that he's been watching our stuff. So, Dane, that's not how I identify. I don't consider myself a centrist. Actually, I think a future episode, we might be taking a political compass test and kind of show everybody
I'm curious.
what our
Maybe I
views
am a
are
centrist.
and where we line up. I was simply saying every time I take one, it puts me somewhere around the center, not right or left. That was all I meant by that. But yeah, so it feels like he tried to stoke everyone up for this whole, like, what is a centrist? Why are they all wrong? And then he never even goes into anything about that. But it was all supposed to be like a dig at us being enlightened centrist, which I think everybody who uses that uses it ironically. Like, you know, does anyone really think that they're enlightened as opposed to?
I think it's a slur.
Yeah, it could be. This could be repeated harassment if they continue this pattern of behavior. I hope they do not. But yeah, here's how he opened this segment.
Questions that some middle of the road centrist system rational guys sent to DJ. They're trying to get him. I'm not gonna say who they are because that's what they want. But like, yeah, there's some desperate clout sharks for sure.
Okay, I might be a clout shark, but I'm not that desperate. I just, you know, wanted to have a conversation and, well, wanted to be part of the facilitation of a conversation. Patrick actually wanted to have the conversation.
Yeah, and I don't really give a shit about clout.
It's true. You do have a channel, though.
I do.
Everyone,
no videos,
go subscribe to A BasedLife. Future videos.
Future videos. Content coming soon.
Jaws theme here.
I'm ready.
Except it's kind of like got the yakety sax sound to it.
That's not the yakety sax one.
No, but that's
I don't know. I guess thinking of the Jaws theme with like the yakety sax could be kind of fun.
Funny.
But I think it would take the attention away from that. Yeah, you kind of need the tension for that Jaws theme. So fair enough. He's calling us contradictory, I guess.
Yeah.
In a funny way. All right, let's keep going.
Yeah, so they sent DJ these questions as like a look. This is just this is a conversation we want to have, and DJ is too smart for this.
Oh, he's so smart.
I just figured it might be interesting.
And I think when you initially told me, you're like, he's probably going to say no to most of these, so I'm hoping he'll say yes to like 2 of these questions or something. I don't think you ever thought that, you know, it was going to be a conversation about like all of these questions. It was just supposed to be like a jumping off point for the conversation.
And some of them might even kind of overlap the topics so that we could like maybe tackle a bigger issue with one question.
For sure.
It was more like just kind of a guide. But I wanted him to know. Yeah, I wanted him to know what we were talking about. And I don't think we have the clip because it'll become relevant later. But there was a stream that Dane and DJ did, I think a day or 2 prior to this, where he asks DJ, he's like, can I have those questions? Can I have those questions from that guy that he sent you to read for a stream I want to do about enlightened centrists? So
yeah, this is what enlightened centrism gets you. And I don't know if so I was going to ask you, by the way, we're supposed to on the Force Diversity podcast cover enlightened centrism before long, and I was going to ask your permission to use you know, those questions that you were sent. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't figure you'd mind, but like that's just such a perfect example of bad faith fucking enlightened centrism, you know, bullshit. Just, you know, starting on a false premise, and then like, you know, there's nowhere to go but in their favor if somebody was to take that seriously. But yeah, it's a lot.
So he gave the question. So I mean,
and he said, of course, he agreed to it.
Yeah, he's like, I don't give a fuck.
And he obviously gave him these questions, which you sent. Sorry, I guess we haven't established this. You sent them in a DM, so it was a direct message to Eric. So the fact that he's sharing it with Dane, let alone to be shared, you know, with everybody and read onto his much larger platform compared to your non-existent platform, and my very tiny
8 subscribers.
Platform, you know, he's punching down on this to mock us.
Yeah, but he doesn't mention our names. Which is nice.
It's a DM, so this may become more relevant later. But he is leaking a DM to do this. By the way,
and I mean, I'm sure as fuck they read all the DMs, not just.
Yeah, for sure.
And there was, and I'm happy they want to release them. I don't give a fuck. There's nothing negative in there. It was a really nice conversation back and forth. Like, you know, just us both kind of saying like, let's try to, because this could be really cool. And, you know, I even said, I'm like, I'm not looking to change the world. And he's like, this is probably going to change nothing. I said, but even if, you know, even if like a handful of people watch it and you're on that side, I'm on this side, and we kind of find some kind of common ground, like, and a couple of people see it and they're like, okay, like maybe these guys aren't total dicks. Maybe they're not trying to just, you know, like the point was to get us to all stop talking past each other. And
and actually talk to each other.
Get on the same fucking page. Yeah. Because I don't.
Yeah. And it's weird that he put that that this isn't going to change the world? Like, does he think every conversation he has is going to change the world? Like, does he think that the content that they've made is changing the world? I think what you can do is kind of, express your opinion and possibly make subtle changes in the people you're talking to, the people that are listening. But I mean, to actually, have the hubris to think that any one conversation could change the world, that's a little tough. I don't think anyone's going to swallow that. I don't know. I guess delusional pill, but
especially considering like the reach that Dane actually has. And I was looking to have this discussion with DJ, who I think,
for sure.
I think he has like a pretty decent sub.
He's definitely got more than me, but his other channel has like thousands. I think this one's hundreds. So I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like he's bigger, but it wasn't like, we're attacking somebody who has like one follower or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it does seem like my followers are a drop in the bucket compared to Dane's there.
Oh, absolutely. And I do firmly think that like maybe like 60 to 70% of Dane's subscribers are people who fucking hate him. But
I know one or two people who are subscribed that don't watch for enjoyment, I should say.
Right. Yeah, I know a bunch. I think we're both of them. But yeah, so like, I just wanted to stress that point that like we knew that he was going to read these questions.
Oh, for sure.
Because he said, basically fuck that guy. Said one thing to me, talked to me a particular way, and then turned around and just made a mockery of something really, really nice that I thought I was trying to do.
Yeah, it seemed like we were coming to like some sort of understanding, but it turns out it was not. It was not real understanding. It perhaps was a ruse all along from that side. Which is sad. And I think it made me feel bad. For sure. It hurt your fifis. Which we discovered last time.
Interesting to kind of break these down and I don't know, the mind of a centrist kind of thing.
Ooh, they're getting in the mind.
I've got them here. Let me get this shit.
Yeah, that is kind of weird. Again, apparently these questions to start a conversation are him being able to get into your mind. I think this is more of that whole like mind reading thing where apparently he can understand your actual intentions, which I thought he had previously said intentions don't matter, but that seems to be all that he's putting on you is these weird intentions from being able to read your mind. I don't know. I guess I just don't get it, but it is a cognitive distortion to think that you understand what's going on in somebody else's mind. That's why you didn't assume what's going on in DJ's mind and wanted to actually talk to him. Yeah, but DJ Eric did not want to talk. So this happened instead.
I wonder if I can edit this layout to make it a little bit more manageable here.
I believe in you, Dane. You got this.
You can do it.
To the bottom and move the text blurb to the left.
Nobody puts Morgan in the bottom.
Nobody blurbs it to the left.
Yeah, I think so.
Almost.
Should have.
You can do this.
Yeah.
That
works. Good work, team.
All right, so it's just several questions that they proposed to DJ that they'd want to talk about if he came on their stream.
It was Patrick. But,
so how can we create a better understanding between the straight community and the LGBTQ plus community, focusing on our shared values rather than our differences? And now this might seem, and look, no shame, but if this seems like
no shame at all.
Not shame. Not no shame for us. No shame if you misunderstand that this question is evil. Nope, not evil.
No shame.
Trickery.
But if
like a reasonable question to you, I don't know, hit one in
chat. No shame, but if you think it's reasonable.
Hit one if this is a reasonable question.
Definitely not going to shame you, but everybody publicly put this into chat.
Is all.
Yeah. I'm sure I'd jump right on that.
But yeah,
I'm not going to shame you, but everybody raise your hand if you have impure thoughts.
Yeah, everybody raise your hands. If
honestly, like this one's.
You want me to hate you?
Like this, there's a lot of layers.
It's a doozy.
Like on my first reading, like my hackles go up, but I'm not quite sure.
Hackles.
What something is off about how this is worded, and I feel like I would have to spend an extra couple clock cycles.
I can't trick these guys. They're too quick.
Here?
Yeah, it's actually impressive for such a simple, like short worded question. Like how many kind of things are going on with this?
And that's why, like, the question often, like we were talking about earlier, like, are they even these people being sincere whenever they say this stuff? These guys, no, they're not. And like that may be why I immediately was just like spotting the red flags and whenever I first read them, but like, maybe I wouldn't have immediately known.
Dane is such a racist bigot
if I didn't know who these guys are.
The red flags, they also, it's the Southern Cross. He can see them everywhere.
Such a fucking asshole.
It's, it's like he can hear these dog whistles. I can't. I don't know. It's just weird. He can sniff out these red flags, these racist thoughts, sexist thoughts, bigotist thoughts. I don't know. I guess I don't understand how he can see so much into something like this.
Now
So could I ask you, what was
go ahead.
your intention with this question? Because it seems like a rather reasonable question.
I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I'm going to read the question, even though he just read it. How can we create a better understanding between the straight community and the LGBTQ plus community, focusing on our shared values rather than our differences? I mean, fucking more straightforward could I get? And you'll see, gentle viewers, you'll see as well that they are very upset with terms I use, which I don't know all the fucking terms. There's no way, they're like, look it up. Like, you can't, because they fucking constantly evolving and changing. So,
but then they also seem to be mocking and belittling your not understanding, where, hey, couldn't this lead to some explanation? Hey, when you're saying straight community, I don't agree with it because, and then you could actually kind of explain it to you. But
right. And I
instead,
would
this
have been
isn't
able to
that.
say that's not exactly what I was meaning by straight community. I meant like straight people. I don't know.
Yeah, or he could have explained that, like, this could be othering by saying straight community when it's, the majority, and then this as not. So you're saying, like, it puts up a rather othering dichotomy. It's like, yeah, maybe. And you could understand that and change the way that you're talking, but it's hard to do that when, they don't give you any sort of feedback and they want to actually talk to you.
And what other way could I have possibly worded this? Like, if I were to say, how could we, create a better understanding between the normal
non-LGBTQ community or non-LGBTQers.
He wanted cis heteronormative or something, I think. And it's like, I don't even.
But even then, they're mocking that you said it's straight community. So even if you said cis heteronormative community, like, he would still come at you saying, like, you guys aren't a community, you're not a monolith. And fair enough, he's got a point. Like, there isn't like one, voice that represents all of that. Yeah, fair enough. But I think you weren't trying to create a dichotomy. You were just trying to say, like, hey, there seems to be a lack of necessarily understanding, and it seems like we could come together to create more understanding, is what I'm getting out of this. And I had some ideas on, like, how I would have tried to answer this.
Yeah,
like,
I'm curious.
Stop assuming on each side. Like, I know that there are assumptions made about the straight community. I know I've heard DJ Eric say that, like, people think that he shouldn't exist. I don't know. Like, we are, I guess, critics of his, but I don't want to speak for you, but I'm pretty sure I know your answer, that you do not in any way wish that he doesn't exist or thinks that he shouldn't. I don't know. I think there's some bad assumptions that we have of both sides. And obviously there are some horrible people on more of the right side usually who think that, like, certain lifestyles could be sins or are of the devil. Right. Obviously, that's a horrible assumption. I guess I can understand how somebody would come to that because of, their religious belief. But yeah, I think that's also an assumption. And I think there are ways that we could come together without using those, and just kind of, my next point would be literally listening to the other side and understanding what they're actually trying to say, not putting assumptions on them, not misreading their words. And then, I guess this would be a good time to talk about. So there are, there's definitely reasons why you'd want to kind of explain, here are differences. I don't feel represented in this way. It would be kind of identity politics, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a way to be divisive. There's this amazing, I guess she was an activist, civil rights leader, but Pauli Murray. She also believed in a form of identity politics, but it was the common humanity identity politics. She has some amazing quotes, but I intend to destroy segregation by positive and embracing methods. When my brothers try to draw a circle to exclude me, I shall draw a larger circle to include them. Where they speak out for the privileges of a puny group, I shall shout out for the rights of mankind. And Pauli Murray was just amazing. But I think that is the way that she was able to shape so much and to actually make changes in the Supreme Court. It wasn't to just call the other side enemies and not engage with anything that they said. It was actually to try and engage and to try and change minds. But that's what I believe you were trying to do in your own way here. Not exactly like a civil rights stand by any means, but you were trying to come together and say, hey, we don't have to be others. Let's see what our common ground is. Let's focus on what we could do together. And, let's see if we can move forward positively with understanding. And that's not what they do right here. They take this question a different way.
Yeah.
Was this their opening question? Because I feel like this really gives a lot away. If you're like,
yes.
yeah, like it's like you pick like if they picked a different question, maybe, but like this is an opening to me, which is like,
This was the first question. These are all in order, actually. I made these graphics in order, but so yeah, I don't know who wants to do.
I want to be respectful of pronouns right now.
You want me to do it? You want to do it?
Yes.
They is an asshole, and them is a fucking jerk to think that he's framing this. Shit. See, I did it.
They framing.
They
this.
are framing this as if I just came out of my house, saw a gay gentleman, and walked up and asked this question. That's why I think it was very important that they'll do it a few times here, and it's very important that we established there was an entire conversation spanning the course of 5-6 weeks in DMs in preparation for this. This wasn't just like you and I one day were like, let's get that gay bastard DJ Eric. We're going to come up with some questions to trick him, and we're going to invite him on, and we're going to make a fucking asshole out of him. That's how they frame this. And it's like, fuck you.
And with all fairness to Morgan and Willow, they might not have been informed by Dane the backstory on this. But
I said as soon as Dane got these questions,
knows.
As soon as Dane got these questions, he was going to poison the well.
Oh, for sure.
Willow.
It's like where to begin.
I've
been doing some reading on Community, and as far as that goes with the straight community. If you guys, since I am from the straight community, I can
you can cisplain to us.
All right, hush, I got this.
Assholes.
Wait, did you get a cis pass from Dane? Do we have a cis pass?
Dane, can we get a cis pass from you?
Yeah, y'all are my sisses. So
no, you're our sis.
Sorry, yeah, that's right. That's it's so confusing. It's really not. So better understanding between straight community and LGBT community. That's the first part of it.
What's
the
unreasonable
thing is
about that?
There is no straight community.
Oh, Jesus.
Whenever people talk about the African American community or the trans community or the queer community, these types of communities are formed out of necessity, because very often, very often, it's people that are pushed out of their own families, out of their own communities. They're marginalized. That's what the word means. And so there's this recurring thing of found family among especially among queer people, and
that's horrible that they have to go through that.
It's a disingenuous framing in the first place.
Who also
for a couple reasons, actually. For that, and because
that's always horrible.
Most straight people in the U.S. don't give a shit. I think
that
have
is extremely
some concerns
unfair.
here and there, something like that, but they're not actively advocating, for any kind of crazy shit. The right wing is way overrepresented on the internet as far as how loud they are, how much they, how they're inorganically funded.
I don't know.
I don't see that.
I really wish you would back up any one of these claims or whatever. It still seems like the biggest channels are now, ever since Adpocalypse 3 or whatever, are the big TV channels. And it seems like, I keep getting put in my feed all those channels. Maybe it's because I watch some of the news clips, but it's it seems like they're always trending. It's not necessarily big right-wing channels. There are certain platforms that it's definitely all that's on there, but I don't know. I just wish you would kind of explain that more, because I'm not seeing that, and I'm not pro right wing, but I do try and look at news from literally both sides. It is a lot harder to find right wing news other than Fox, and a lot of that is, I don't know, more of opinion show than actual news. So I don't know. I guess I don't quite understand what he's talking about with news.
Dane is also a victim of his own search history, I guess, so to speak, or that algorithm. So, I mean, if you're constantly seeking out hateful rhetoric and hateful creators, or people you consider hateful anyway, what do you think you're going to fucking find on your feed every day? What do you think you're going to find when that's the way it all works. You talk about it all the time. It's gained for this. It's gained for this. It's because you're fucking looking for it every day, so you can make fun of it.
And I'd be interested to hear what he means by the I can't remember exactly how he said it. It wasn't nefarious funding, but the strange way that the right wing is funded. I don't know. It seems to imply some sort of conspiratorial weird funding thing, where it seems like a lot of people they don't necessarily like the mainstream news, so they donate to the figures that they like especially online. But I don't know. Maybe he knows something that I don't, and if that's the case, I wish he would explain it, because
it would be nice.
I don't know
what he's talking about it.
Yeah, that would be nice. Never gonna happen. He's afraid to talk.
In a lot of cases, so they are able to get further reach than they should if they were just left to their own abilities. So it's just disingenuous right from the start. Like there is no reason for the straight community to have to, like, I don't know, like treaty with the queer community, because we've already done that. We've had that conversation. The conversation's been had. The marriage rights in particular for gay people have already happened. Of course, there are people trying to actively dismantle that, but yeah. So this is just, it's like if let's say DJ or somebody else. I don't want, because DJ wouldn't do it, but like let's say they asked somebody else this and they were like,
that's
yeah,
not what DJ said.
About these questions with you. You're automatic.
Well, you see, I don't know if these rumors are true, but the rumors are that he is the puppet master, that these other people have to do what he says. I have no way to substantiate that. I've seen those rumors around. So I don't know. Maybe DJ can't control what he actually does. Maybe it is all up to Dane.
Yeah,
so
clearly Dane's
he does seem very confident that DJ would never do that, and that could be because Dane would not allow it.
Which is funny because the leader and advocate of this group, the voice of the LGBTQ plus community, is, in their words, a cis heteronormative male from who talks about how he was raised racist and bigoted. Like, I'm not asking these questions to him.
He did watch Star Trek though, and he did read X-Men. So
yeah,
he gets it.
And he's got that vagina forehead guy, so that's clearly something from.
Garrick.
What's he, an X-Men?
He's a tailor. He's from Star Trek. I'm
familiar.
Starting on the back foot with these people, they are already winning before you even answer a question. If you take this shit seriously,
right?
So
to expand on like what you were just saying with the community thing, like, right, like essentially this is framing it as if like these are two like focus groups or something,
right?
And it's like no, like literally the society we live in.
Did you
already like
approach him as a focus group?
Like, right? Like you are like it's all structured.
But what was I supposed to write? Like,
so
what do you, Mr. DJ, think about our shared values from Mr. Straight Patrick? Like, no.
I guess instead of saying community, you could have said, what can I and you do to create better understanding within our two communities? Because I don't know. Even then, like that would say communities. Because I mean, it's not like you're trying to be his best friend. You're just trying to ask, like, hey, it feels like you've got a lot of assumptions against me. Like, what can we do to kind of come to common ground and actually have a conversation based on our shared values? I don't know. It sounds reasonable, but apparently, if they even take that seriously, they've lost.
Right? Yeah, focusing on our shared values rather than our differences. All they're focusing on is the differences part.
I guess I can't understand how you'd be looking at things to where taking that seriously is a loss for you. I don't know. That just seems so, I don't know. It's beyond like conspiratorial. It's just like so paranoid that like everything is everything's a win or lose. I don't know. I'm not sure what lens that is, but it seems very distorted.
This will go on, but I mean, when I was watching this, my mind was fucking blown. I was just like, how in the actual fuck are these guys reading these questions? And reading so much into it. It's like,
and admittedly, there's a bit of overlap between them. Like, they could have said, this one and this one, let's go with this question instead. I like this one as opposed to this. And it's like, cool. Yeah. And if he chooses two, like, hey, that's a conversation. We could start on these 2 points.
Yeah. And it wasn't like I sent these questions and under each question was multiple choice. It wasn't like you have to pick A, B, C, or D, and those are the answers and that's it. The purpose was to start the conversation.
Exactly.
Like, and this is the first question, and my mind is like, like they needed Little Orphan Annie's decoder ring to fucking sort these out and be like, oh, see, it's HBCT down the side. That must mean some, horrible kind of fucking connotation towards.
It's another dog whistle. Like, the signs were all there. They just should have seen them.
Yeah, like if you take every third letter from each word, it spells out,
the true intentions.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous thing, and then it goes into like focusing on the shared values, which is like basically framing this where again it's like there's nothing, like you don't need anything. Basically, like you've already been given everything, and so you're like, well, where do we overlap here? Where's our interests lie? What can we give you to shut you up?
Yeah, what can you give us to shut us up?
Asshole.
Right, and it's like, it's just ridiculous.
A perfect like little example of this type of thinking is, well, where's Straight Pride Month?
Nope.
Yeah,
He never
the
said
other
Did you
that.
have
11
Straight
months.
Pride Month
Yeah, the other
embedded in this question somewhere? You wanted to
Nope.
know where Straight Pride Month was. You've been missing it all this time, and you just think that you're one of those super straights, aren't you, Patrick?
Yeah.
I knew it.
I'm as straight as they come. Straight
You're
as
one
an
of those
arrow, and
Enlightened
whole-
super straights, aren't
yeah.
you?
I
I
just
mean,
don't
and
get all
also
these
just like
crazy
it's not
gays.
necessary because
It's
DJ
really ongoing.
on Eric Debunks, he made a video on this where he's like, he literally rattled off the numbers of how many countries have laws that you can't be gay. How many
Yeah,
of those
it's a lot.
countries
Too many.
also have
Yeah,
can put you to
fucking
death for
gross.
being gay? And like, until basically those don't exist anymore, then yeah, we need Pride Month. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
Um,
And we
Yeah.
talked about it last week.
Because that will change their laws.
With the lavender scare, or was that last week or 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago, I think.
2 weeks
I don't know
ago.
what this
2 weeks
is.
ago.
About how a lot of those anti-queer laws in the U.S. are still on the books. They're just made non-functional by a Supreme Court verdict. And as we've seen the last few years, that isn't worth the paper it's written on. They
Right.
can just change their mind.
So your question is leading to
and
that.
that all comes
I mean,
Yeah.
this could be
You
a
know
weird
that-
conversation to have,
Yeah.
but fair
I mean,
enough.
Do
Like,
you know that blowjobs
it's
are
just,
illegal in New Jersey?
I
Legit,
didn't,
there's a
but
law.
huh?
There's a lot
I
of dumb
might
fucking
not-
laws that are still on the books. What the fuck's he talking
Yeah,
about?
I know there's a lot
There's
of
a
dumb ones
sign.
here too.
There's a sign on the highway. My son and I laugh at it all the time. We don't live in an area where there's like horses and shit like that, but there's a sign as you get off to get onto the highway, and it says no. What is it? No bicycles, no horses, no mopeds. Like that's a law. But who the fuck is going onto a major highway with a horse, a bicycle, or a fucking moped? Like it's a law, but nobody's like, oh, you know what? That's a law. We gotta fucking really.
Yeah,
worry
that's a good point. I guess their whole point is that a Supreme Court decision wouldn't suddenly make those active, but that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. You'd actually have to have some sort of will of the people to enforce that. I don't know that it's there. I think times have really changed since then. But yeah, it's definitely something to be concerned about. Like, it wouldn't be a bad conversation to have for
No.
sure. And if this question led to that, that might be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, and there may be some
And
of this again laws that I'm not aware of, or the
Oh, for
average
sure.
straight person in our super straight community full of straights that we don't fucking know about. So again, the whole point of the fucking questions to open up goddamn dialogue. But you know
Yeah,
what?
it would be nice.
Poison fucking heteronormative cis Dane had to ruin everything. with his
It's just
hateful,
so privileged of you. You have
bigoted-
everything.
yeah.
Why would you have to have his answer as well? Ah.
Well, he has
How dare
everything
you.
because he's white, he's straight, he's cis or whatever, you know. So he has everything. What the fuck is he doing talking about anything?
He has other, I
He has
guess,
a Willow.
oppression. Well, fair enough. He's got friends. That works.
Thing is, too, I would actually argue that this question, the way that's framed, is like pretty othering. Like,
Oh.
because again,
It's
because
othering.
it is denying the fact that like straight isn't like just basically the hegemony. That
Right.
like it's essentially it's an othering of like, well, what's kind of like us? Can you tell us like what we should accept?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. And like also
Apparently,
they
my graphics
fucking-
card is dying.
they're-
Sorry, everyone.
No, it's just that they're green
I'll
with
include
MB.
myself in the queer community because I like to say
Oh,
I'm
you're
somewhere
queer
down the
now,
line
Dane?
of the letters there. Just I'm the one that gets left off.
Moron.
But, yeah, like
that would be ableist or differently abled. So that might be a letter. I don't think that's the one that he's talking about, but you can see why he's able to talk about it now. He's one of the letters that isn't represented there that he's not going to talk about now. So
Right.
he's one of the he's oppressed. You've got
It's like
everything.
why-
He's got
yeah.
nothing. Yeah,
It's like why he can say retard.
could be. He has the pass.
they're the ones that are acting like something is a problem. You know what I mean? Like, they're the
Don't
ones
think it's
that
a
are
problem.
resisting,
Just one
just
understanding.
accepting people for what they are.
Right.
If it wasn't for this stuff, as DJ said, on stream one time, he asked us he was like, look, how many times have we talked about me being gay outside of the context of this shit? You know what I mean? Like all this nonsense.
Right.
We just don't. And we wouldn't. We would be talking about comics. We'd be talking about movies
so
and shows.
funny.
Like it's because that these people are
Right.
pushing these types of narratives and this type of bullshit that we even have to even talk about it. Like, so we have way more in common.
all
and
they
we're
talk about.
fine,
Well, and this didn't start with you seeking him out. He was putting hit the label on somebody else and responding to them saying, you are this, you are this. I don't know. It seems like, you just said, hey, this guy doesn't identify that way. Shouldn't you be respecting that?
Oddly enough,
don't
it
know.
wasn't the first time that Eric and I have ever had an interaction on Twitter.
Mm,
And there was another
yeah.
time where he was like, just because you have a problem because I'm gay, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't fucking care that you're gay. I just think you're an asshole.
I remember that. When he said that to you was when I decided to be a dick.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided to loop in his, I don't know if you want to call it former associate, but a former member of the Fandom Initiative, the same tribe that he is in now, but Ed. Ed decided to go after us and ask when our wedding is going to be, because he sees anytime that, two men get together and have any sort of relationship, ours strictly platonic, but in his mind, we are now getting married. So he wanted invites to our marriage and stuff because he sees it as some sort of insult to call people gay.
Right.
So I did loop DJ Eric in and just asked him like, hey, are you okay with, your associate just randomly using homophobia as some sort of insult?
Right.
He wouldn't engage with it. He kept telling him. So I guess I could definitely see that as trolling. We kind of had a back and forth. That was my only interaction with DJ before this. And granted, I did kind of troll him and pull him into a situation that he didn't want to be in. But I don't know. I just felt him randomly accusing you of homophobia. And then some guy who's literally on his team randomly being homophobic. I thought maybe he'd have something to say about it.
Yeah, it's a little hypocritical.
But your previous interactions with him were a lot more cordial. So if he's lumping you and me together, he might be bringing his feelings towards me, who was a bit more dickish, definitely trollish than you were with him. I apologize.
I'm a very nice guy.
No, for sure.
I'm super cordial. I'm really nice. And we're probably not going to talk about this either. And but you have to also remember in the midst of all this, DJ Eric, he popped into what was it, Sitch and Adams chat? Yes. And he got attacked, and I was shocked. I was disgusted. People were like, "Oh, we know you, you fucking asshole, get out of here." And you and I both were like, no, shut the fuck up. He has every right to be here. He's here trying to ask genuine questions. And
we might have burned a bridge with someone in it. I was just saying, like, hey, you should leave him alone. He's willing to talk. That's better than I'll say for most. So he's cool in my book. And then, he just was completely was trashing us. I think that same person then called you a cunt after that.
Yeah, fuck him.
Yeah, so that really sucks. We possibly burned a bridge with somebody who was previously, at least in our chats before, we were cordial with. But when we tried to kind of stand up for Eric and they're like, hey, let him have his opinion. He's at least willing to talk. That's better than most. We gave him way too much credit. Apparently we should have just let him get trashed, and we shouldn't have tried to jump in and tried to.
Yeah, maybe the guy was right. Maybe he had one of these kind of experiences already that we're not now having.
It could be. I definitely thought better of DJ prior to this whole situation, but
so did I. I lost a lot of respect.
Indeed. Getting back to it.
Yep. Yeah. And the other thing it denies, and this is an important one, I think, is that the values that the straights want, we all fucking live with them.
The straights. That was very othering of him, and I don't appreciate that.
Oh.
I don't know.
Society structures, but they're literally ingrained us. This is kind of like, I think an easier example to point to, but there's a lot of internal stuff that you internalize or how we act that's still very in line with being straight. Even when you're queer, that's there's a lot of stuff to cope with and deal with that. Mm-hmm. An easy example would be just because women are affected in patriarchy, women still hold patriarchal values and can still uphold patriarchy. In fact, most of us do have something that we do, whether we know it or not, that does that. And so those values are already literally pushed in all of us from fucking birth.
And I understand what he's saying. What they are saying. I disagree, but that could have been a good starting point for the conversation as well. It's okay, then let's talk about these patriarchal values and where it is ingrained in society. If it's the same as hierarchy or if it's more a gender role type of deal. But that would be a conversation where we could come to some understanding on. I don't know. It feels like that's a good jumping off point.
Yeah, it's funny too because these fucking idiots end up answering the questions and talking about it. Oh, these questions are so tricky and bad, but if we answer, it's come on, guys. I
think there's a lot of good conversations that could have been had.
Come on, them.
Yeah, come on,
and Dane.
And
come on, they.
Whatevers. Yeah, they.
We already have them. So we don't need like there's nothing again. So it's kind of like this weird like there's not like what are you even talking about? Like it's not like we're trying to find two circles and finding where they overlap. It's like we're all part of like we already are.
Doesn't have to be a
this,
Venn
like,
diagram. Your circle
in your
includes them.
circle. What do you
Yeah.
want? What more do you want from us?
Right, like you're basically trying to shove us out, and so we overlap as little as
No,
possible.
we're trying
But, like,
to circle
exactly.
you
Like, we're
guys
already
as
in
well.
the circle. Like we had no choice. Like we're all
Right,
in.
we're all
your
here.
This question
So
alone
two things.
is contradictory to what he's saying. It's like,
Yeah.
no, Dick, we're not. I'm not trying to push it. And stop saying we. You know, the street, whatever. Like me, us,
Yeah.
you and I are literally saying, what can we do to focus on our shared values? The
Yeah,
things that
and
we
that's
all
the
think
thing.
are
It's
important.
common humanity versus
Versus differences.
yeah, exactly. I don't know. I guess I just
thought
don't
it was a great
understand their
opening
take.
question.
Yeah, I thought so too. And if they didn't want to use this, fine. You have another one that kind of touches
Sure.
on some of this too. But it was just supposed to be a jumping off point. And they've, really mentioned a few things that would have been rather interesting to explore further.
Could have been great.
I think it kind of served its purpose, but not to actually have a conversation. Instead, both sides are talking to themselves right now. That's sad. But
exactly what I
Dane
didn't
is
want.
listening, so
Fuck you,
this
Dane.
is what we meant by that, Dane.
This, by framing these two things as equal, it feels like a gangster coming into your store,
This is
talking like you're equals and offering you, you can pay him so that no one roughs up your shop, right?
Why did you threaten to rough up his shop, sir? That was across the line. Like, I'm sorry, dude. You just crossed the line on that one. You
Yeah,
should
I
have
know.
left his business alone. You shouldn't have tried to rough it up.
Unfortunately for Morgan, I've been trying to really listen to Dane a bit more. And Dane has explained to me that if you don't have a profile picture or represent yourself beyond an avatar, I don't need to pay attention to you.
Mine's just a jar of mustard. I should probably update that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Protection racket. It's that same sort of you and I are on the same level. What kind of deal can we come to so we share our value? It's like, wait a minute. You
Is that
are
what
extorting
monsters say?
something from me. The second is I do know when Straight Pride Month is. It's actually about a third of the
There we
year
go.
from the end of August to the beginning of February.
It is?
It's NFL season.
Seems a little gay to me.
I imagine it's much more prominent for you there in Wisconsin.
I hate sports.
I'm
FYI.
not a big sports guy myself. I used to play them, and it's fun to play,
Yeah,
but
it's
I don't
cool.
know. I don't watch them that much.
I was an athlete when I was young, when I was a child.
I mean, I like participating in anything. It's always fun, but
I don't watch the
just
NFL.
like sitting there and watching it. I don't know. Maybe it is a big straight pride thing. I do remember them putting I guess that was hockey where they put the gay flags on all the players and stuff. I don't know. It just doesn't seem as straight as it could be. When I think of who plays the halftime shows, it's usually not. At least at the Super Bowl, those seem to be the only games I catch in the last few years.
And the uniforms are kind of gay.
Well, that's what I was initially thinking, like all the ass slapping and the tight kind of sheer pants, shiny. I don't know.
Together,
that being
out.
said, any of those guys could kick my ass, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There are aspects of it that I don't know if I'd say straight pride, but
and also I think it's important to remember, Gray, no gay or LGBTQ plus person has ever liked football. It's important to remember that.
It would be hard to. I mean, it's so violent, and
it's nothing for them. They don't like it. They don't want it. And Morgan has explained this to us now. So now we know to celebrate Straight Pride Month during the NFL season because no gays.
I mean, clearly it was an attempt at a joke, but just
But he's fucking stupid.
Fair enough.
It is the state religion, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah.
So I have to get my dig at the NFL in for the episode, as is required in my contract.
And Wisconsin.
And Wisconsin, yeah, the show's villain.
We did get old Goatface in earlier. So,
we did.
Yeah, it's there is no
Who's Goatface?
When has any straight person had to? Well, I mean, they do.
Did Bob make an appearance?
They're coddling with each other now because they pretend to be victims, but like. Really, when does somebody straight have to call their straight friend to go, oh God, I'm just so hard.
You shouldn't
straight.
have put so much
out in the world
victimization into
today,
this question.
You know what I mean? Like people just really against me being straight. You know what I mean? Like that's.
I know someone who did that. Who
you
interacted with. So So for those of you who don't know, I'm involved in something called Pathfinder Society. It's a
big Nissan
Cub
club.
Scouts?
yeah, it's a big Nissan club. No, it's
Yeah.
Pathfinder role playing game. Does an organized play community
Oh.
called Pathfinder Society. I run the local group here, and we have a fair number of LGBT players, and someone who used to be more prominent in the community and is not pro LGBT.
No pure plus.
Got in trouble with the store for being a shit and being mean to some people. And then he tried to talk to one of the other people in the group on the side, like, isn't it so hard that we have to do this? And their response was like, no, what the fuck are you talking about? Just like,
You know, I'd be willing to bet that anyone, because the only thing I can think of, right, was kind of like incel shit. And it's like if someone's complaining about how hard it is being straight, it's probably a man.
For sure.
It's probably wrapped up in like into toxic masculinity stuff. Like
Or,
almost
incel shit.
100%.
So you
Incel.
are a toxic, you're a toxic masculine incel, who's, I'm guessing, super straight and enlightened because you wrote this question.
Yeah, that's a compliment.
It's just
right?
such a
Incel?
gotcha.
one
You
of
really
those?
probably shouldn't. No, somehow you are a living contradiction. It just works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone should tell my kids and my girlfriend.
You're right. It's gonna be tough to
I'm
break it
just,
to them.
Just not into it anymore.
Yeah, I guess I should have framed it, I suppose, with like any real oppression like affecting someone. And I mean, look, I don't
Yeah,
actually. There is
so much
some,
oppression
if you wanna
built
call
into
it
this question.
Oppression with toxic
Idiots.
masculinity. I don't
for
know if
sure.
that's the right.
Oh
word,
yeah,
but
yeah.
There's definitely suffering happening because of the way
But, yeah,
gender norms are set up.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the sad thing is that there's an element of like you to not accept. Like the more accepting you are, the more stuff you open up. Like it's also going to help like liberate you with a lot of things.
right.
But like
Hmm.
they're so caught up in like this is the game we're supposed to play. It's like you're accepting your own. You are accepting your own suffering in this. Like like that.
Yeah.
Those things are harming you as well. But you're just gonna go along with it because it's it's what was there. It's what you know. And
Yep.
don't
They're
know
their
what the fuck
it was
own
really
perspective.
shitty
Although
read
I
on
will
that
say,
subject.
I have to imagine, at least based on how they talk, there's probably some turf women
They.
who will do this. Oh, woe is me for being a cishet woman. How dare these transes have to use the bathroom?
that's true. Yeah, that's true. They're a good example of like trying to like, yeah.
How dare these transes have to use the bathroom? They just said that's true, that's the actual argument. Like I've looked into the trans issue quite a bit. I might not be as much of an expert as they are, but I have never heard how dare they have to use the bathroom. Like
Did you mean
is
they?
just
Did you mean they by Willow, or do you mean they by Willow Morgan and Dane?
either of these, but any of them. I think any of them. Let's go with
Okay,
that.
any of them.
But yeah, I don't see that as the argument, which seems really uncharitable. It kind of shows your lack of comprehension if you can't even say what the actual objection to the issue is. Anyone could make up a straw man, but could you actually deal with what the actual objection is? Could it not be that some women would like women's only spaces? I believe that's what I've heard, not how dare trans women have to use the bathroom. Like, I don't know. It seems like quite a world of difference.
I don't think that these issues crop up as often as as we're made to believe between media and the internet and everything else and all these issues.
For
I'm sure it's a very, I mean, considering, and I'm going to probably fudge the numbers, but what is like the LGBT community, LGBTQ plus community is what, like somewhere between like 2 and 10% of the population?
I think it might be slightly higher, but yes, like it is
I'm
definitely
like,
a minority.
It's very,
of,
very, very small group of people in our country.
For sure.
So out of those small groups of people, I can't imagine that it's very often that this bathroom thing is an issue when it's not just being made an issue, or the sports thing. But when it is an issue, it's a big deal. Like, and it's unfortunate. Like if I don't have daughters, but if I had a daughter who was working her whole life at track to get a scholarship, and I could see where she would be like, this is not fair. Like, there's nothing I could physically do to overcome this person.
And even if you don't have a daughter who's doing that, it seems like you could actually like empathize with that position. Like, that doesn't seem like that would be fair. There might be a different way that we could do this. Perhaps we should actually have that conversation, not immediately get, yelled a transphobe and told that you
And,
were bad
And I
or
want to say
even questioning.
on the flip side of the coin, which I'm extremely empathetic to as well, it's got to be so upsetting for the trans person, the trans youth,
For sure.
who wants to
Like,
compete, and they've
Not
been
only do they
passionate
feel
about
an
it their whole
incongruence,
life.
but yeah, they want to actually just be able to compete. Like, for
Yeah,
sure.
like, where do I belong in
understand both
this?
sides.
It's got to be super uncomfortable and awkward and
And I'm sure they don't
and-
want a media shitstorm
Yeah.
about their existence either. Like, that has to be like completely horrible.
I mean, the trans people that I've met and that I know in my life, at least two of them, I had no fucking idea they were trans. Like, I had no idea. I knew them for years. So I think the majority of trans people just want to live their lives. Like,
For sure.
they just
Not
want
everybody
to
wants
live.
to be an activist or whatever. And
Yeah,
not
they
everybody
just
wants
want
to
live. And
Yeah,
not everybody's
exactly.
going to be a fucking athlete or. But I just think it's just a silly point that he's making. It's like,
And I want to make it clear that, we don't have any problem with people living. Like, we fully acknowledge that, they are people and,
trans people exist.
yes, for sure.
They exist 100%. Black people exist. Everyone.
Yeah.
Everybody
Nearly
exists.
everyone exists.
That is true.
Got like 6 questions here. So moving on.
Yeah, let's get going, Dave.
In your experience, what are some misconceptions or stereotypes that straight men often have about the LGBTQ plus community, and how can we overcome them? Well, first of all,
That seems
What
like
a
a pretty reasonable question.
Yeah, what a dickhead question.
I don't know. I can think of a few misconceptions. First off, that we don't want similar things. I think that's a very huge misconception. That we don't think that the other side should exist. I don't think that there's a lot of straight people that think that about the LGBTQ community. I don't think there's a lot of them that think that straight shouldn't exist. I think there's a lot of overlap there. But there's a lot of hyperbolic language that seems like we're saying that the other side is saying that. And then I think we both want to humanize each other. And I think we could, listen to each other. I think that would be great. I think that would be ways that we could actually overcome these stereotypes. I 100% acknowledge that you are all human, that you exist, and that you are having the feelings that you are having. 100%, I acknowledge you are human. I would like to listen to you and understand because I cannot read your mind.
Yeah, like I was kind of the where this question was coming from is it was reminding me of like high school, and we had a handful of gay kids in our high school, and I was friends with a couple of them. I was in drama club, so
so you were one of them.
Yeah, I was in plays and shit in high school. So
I was too in the drama thing.
I was in our high school production of Pippin. So
very
so
nice. I was stage crew.
My theater friends were obviously quite different than my other group of friends, which were they used to call us the Rats. Not like telling people, but like we were like we were scumbags. Like we all like smoked pot and wore flannels and hung out by the train tracks. And they would say shit to me like
Pippin.
Right, and practice our Pippin. But they would say shit to me like, oh, when you hang out with all those, I'm not gonna say the words. And I'm like, yeah, what's the fucking problem? And they're like, oh, those guys always want to fuck me. And I'm like, nobody wants to fuck you. The girls don't want to fuck you. What makes you think the gay guys want to fuck you? And like that was kind of like one of the things I was thinking. Like, it was a misconception that a lot of young people had, like, oh, you're gonna be frank. What if he tries to touch your dick? Like, no, gay people are not just randomly touching dick.
Yeah, you think awfully highly of yourself. You're really putting yourself up on this giant pedestal, and not everyone would be interested.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe everyone wants to touch my dick. I get that, but that's not just exclusive to gay or straight. It's just everybody. But there was a story I was going to tell to DJ, which I guess I could tell it now, about a misconception that was completely blown for me as a young adult. It's so touchy because I don't want to use this guy's exact name from high school because I don't know his situation. I don't know if he's out or not, but at the time he was very out. And so how can I say this? Guy's name was Jay. All right. And Jay was from the city, and he moved to like a smaller town in Jersey. And I had kind of always had this conception of gay men as effeminate and weak. And I was 14, like at the time.
Yeah.
And that it was like, that's kind of how it was. Remember, we used to use the word gay as like a derogatory term for like, dude, you're so gay, like meaning that you're weak, or you're less than, or you're feminine. So this guy who he got the moniker of I wish I could say his full name, but I can't. So he became Gay Janes instead of, which was like an inversion of his name, and he embraced it, and we all did because we're friends with him. But anyway, so this kid comes up to our school, and he starts dating one of the other gay kids at our school, and the other gay kid was actually very effeminate, and Jay was like this cool raver skater kid, you know, and so one day they're walking in the open field in the front of the school, and there was a bully, and this bully's got a cigarette, and the feminine kid, Michael, I think his name was, walking past, and he's like, you know, oh, excuse me, or something like that. And the kid takes a cigarette, flicks it at him, and is like, would you say F word? And everybody was like, you know, because a fight was about to happen.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Jay steps up to this kid who was way bigger than him. And he's like, don't ever talk to my boyfriend that way again. And we're all like, oh no, Jay, you're going to get your fucking ass kicked. Jay took a step backwards, did a spin kick, and kicked this kid across the face, turned back around, punched him again, spun again, and kicked this kid to the ground. And the crowd went wild. Like,
That
I mean,
sounds awesome. Like that sounds like from a movie.
And it blew my fucking mind. And in that moment, a 14, 15-year-old me was like, oh, wait a minute. Gay people aren't just one thing that I've thought. And it blew. It took the misconception I had and the stereotype of gay men, and it threw it right out the fucking window. And this was something I kind of wanted to talk about. Like,
yeah,
you know,
like stereotypes and misconceptions for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
and
unfortunately, that's kind of the way that our brains work. We make categories and we lump things in. You know, it was like a survival mechanism before, and it can definitely be used for good. But yeah, it is something that you do have to kind of work on. But yeah, I know I've definitely had misconceptions as well.
Sure.
But wow, that is that could have been like a great story to have a conversation with.
I think DJ would have loved that story.
I hope so, but
I hope
it's just a shame that, you know, we're not able to actually have that conversation. But yeah, it's by their choice.
Well, I mean, remember, I'm not going to speak first. Go ahead.
This is like my first reaction is, I don't know. You tell me. Like, what are
and
some
that would be a
things
fine
you think
response
about me? Why do I have to explain
Right.
that?
So that's shitty to say, like, what are the misconceptions you think about me? Like, that's not necessarily where you were going with this, and that's a really shitty way to have a conversation. Like, all right, so what lies do you think about me? It's like, I don't know. Like, is that really going to lead to like a good conversation? I don't know. It just seems like a very negative way to immediately engage with this question.
Yeah,
But
and again, not all these questions were worded perfectly.
no.
I ran them through like a grammar check like 17 times because I was like, I didn't want to look like an idiot, you know. I'm not awesome with my grammar and punctuation.
For sure, I am horrible with it too.
Yeah, in your experience, it was supposed to be like an expansion on the conversation. Like, in your experience would have been my experience, or if you were chiming in, it would have been your experience, because
sure.
You know,
it's not just you tell me this and I won't tell you anything. Like, it's not meant to be an interview. It was meant to be a conversation. You could both come to it with kind of your answer to both of these.
And then it would have segued into like, so like, you know, Eric, what do you think that, like, you know, and then it could have been like, no, wait, we don't think that. Like, oh, I get why. Some people do think that. Like, oh my God, people think that. And then you know.
And you're definitely open to the fact that you might have some misconceptions right now. And that, you know, again, like if your mind was kind of blown or it was, you know, changed, if you were just shown the light, you definitely would be willing to change. That was why you kind of brought that example as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Like this of the ones I remember is probably like, I could maybe see this question being asked honestly. Like, at least it doesn't have as many layers of bullshit behind it. But like,
I don't know.
Nice.
I
Weird.
Thanks.
Because I think that
sorry, maybe it does.
Up, you know, DJ or whoever, it sets the other person up as kind of like, oh, well, I think that, you know, sometimes, and then like, oh, so, you know, I don't know, I can just see it being a very kind of a trap. You know what I mean? Like,
no, that's my point. Yes, it does. If you actually didn't flip the question on them or ask for it, it does put it up where like, oh, so you're admitting this is a thing. kind
Well,
of
Right.
it's basically getting it would be if the other person answers it like thinking about this some specific things or a few examples they know of, and they're not they aren't very clear about that that's what they're talking about, then they're just doing a bigotry against straight people. They're all straight people think this or something. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like
Right.
I just
I
can
didn't even
see
think about it that
going-
way. Yeah, maybe.
That's
I
interesting.
think I
Interesting
thought of
point.
this question kind of like right when I do media analysis, I do stuff like this where I might be like, okay, this is a trope, this is the stereotype, this is the problem with that. And so like there are ways to handle that without doing that, but being asked this in this way is very weird. It's also weird, yeah, that
Oh,
it
it's
is
weird.
framed as
It's
like
weird.
just a stereotype that straight men have.
Mhm.
Versus like again, I guess I just go back to like the as if you're not just like the main culture. Like
Right.
that's
What,
yeah.
they think we're all
and also
bait?
they're excluding cis from that, even though they are.
They think they're all blank. It's bait. Maybe, you know, it would be, even then, if you think that that's some misconception that somebody would have, perhaps we could talk about that. You know, why
That's the whole
do you
point of
have
the
that
question.
misconception? What impression does, you know, the other community have that would give you that? Perhaps it is something that, you know, people could work on. Like, is it a form of, I don't know, I guess it would depend on what it
Again-
is. Because if you're saying it's toxic masculinity and then you're describing like all male traits as toxic, I don't know that that can necessarily change. But, you know, it would be interesting to know what the misconception is.
You know, and again, we're on question 2, and I think these questions are fucking great. I'm not tooting my own horn, but
I think
worked
there's a
really
lot of
hard.
conversation to be had from them. Like, it's not supposed to be like a yes or no question. It kind of makes you think,
No.
and you do have to actually provide some sort of explanation.
Not
You
a
can't just
trap.
say yes, no. I don't know.
T in the you know what I mean?
I don't know. I think that's the difference. When they're asking questions, it's supposed to be a yes or no, and it kind of leads you down a whatever you want to call it, like conversation tree or dialogue tree, where eventually you get to their conclusion, but you can't actually ask questions and explore it. So I think they're seeing this as some sort of trap because you would actually have to explore the idea. You can't just answer
Right.
like yes. What's the next? Yes. What's the next? I don't know. I think it's just a difference in how they look at conversation. And again, a preview to that future video. That's kind of how your conversation went with them. It was supposed to be, you're supposed to just accept this, not actually ask
let's just
questions,
say
not explore it.
it's just par for the course.
So like of course I wouldn't expect them to really.
I'm just
I-
assuming that when they say straight men, that they mean like cis hetero.
Cis-het men,
like,
yeah,
yeah.
'cause I doubt
Fair
these
enough.
people think
Which is
they're
already some
trans
problems with
men.
that.
Especially trans straight men. I don't think they are even aware that trans straight men exist.
I actually
that
asked my
concept
girlfriend
might
this
make-
today. I'm like, were you aware of that?
So that
Actually-
might be a misconception, and that might be some
Correct.
way that you could
She said-
overcome it by saying, "Oh, okay, so it's classified this way. Okay, I can see how that would be a straight." I haven't Googled it or anything. I can see two things that could be labeled as a straight trans man. I'm not sure exactly which one would be the correct one. So I mean, like, this seems like a perfect thing to bring up in this actual conversation, and then hey, that is a misconception that I have.
Right.
Because I'm actually not sure, and I will be Googling it after this because
Yeah, because it's not confusing at all.
yeah, I don't want
it's
to
not
sound
like
like an idiot and
we-
say that's obviously a trans man that likes women. I don't know. I'm not actually sure, so I will Google that. But that could be a fun conversation to have, and that could be a misconception.
Sure.
It doesn't exactly blow my mind. It's just like when you say that, it's like, oh, I'm not 100% sure which you go off of if you go off of sex or gender. But either way,
Yeah, it would have been a nice thing to talk about.
for sure.
Their brains pop.
Because in
Oh, well, apparently our brains would pop when we find the answer to that. I think it might be a misconception that I have. I actually don't know what that means. I guess I could Google it right now.
general, I
Yeah.
think even in
We can ask
LGBTQ
DJ.
spaces, I've noticed that trans men are often more marginalized and forgotten about.
Yeah.
Sometimes hilariously, we're like, people will go like, "You're not a woman, you're a man," and a trans man is like, "Thank you," and they're like, "Oh shit, I was trying to do transphobia, shit."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think part of that's just because like trans women have definitely been more of the focus as far as like
sure.
the fear mongering. So
Mm-hmm. And like even in like when we think
Well,
of like drag culture and
right. Well, I also think that
in
like
depictions in movie, it's normally trans women.
I think trans women and non-binary to an extent like are a little bit more disruptive to some of the norms. Like I think it would be easier for them to understand why someone would want to be a man because
Yeah.
man's the top of the patriarchy and blah blah.
Mhm.
And but like yeah, other is like you're denouncing your kind of like, oh, why would you ever do this? You know, kind of
Must be
I don't know.
something
Like,
wrong.
yeah,
I mean,
I don't know. It plays a
Lucifer's over
spot.
here breaking this thing down in ways that I didn't think about, by the way.
Yeah, Lucifer's on fire tonight.
Lucifer's a fucking moron.
Lucifer's typically got some pretty great takes.
Yeah, no wonder you think they're great takes. You're an idiot too.
Yeah, so it's true. And like what this all points to is just they are setting the framing. And this is like, you know, kind of speaks to like my thing has always been with chuds on this.
So it sounds like
Chuds.
Lucifer's doing, yes, his other slur that he likes to bring up. Again, he has said that chud is a slur. So if chud is a slur, I don't know. It kind of seems like almost anything could be a slur.
Sure, cis
but
could be.
Lucifer seems to be mind reading a bit here. It's to set up a make out that straight people all think this, and B, set up to state stereotypes yourself and suggest they exist and are a problem. I don't know. Like, that just seems like such a weird mind ready way to come up with what your intention was with this question. I don't know. I don't see anyone saying like, but could it be to just facilitate a conversation? And granted, it's probably the way that he set this up, but I don't know. To just praise this is like, yep, that's what it's got to be. I don't know. It could be. Knowing you in the background on this isn't what was set up, but just the so self-assured, just headstrong. Yep, that's correct.
Well,
don't
I
understand
told
that.
you, I'm taking chud back. It now stands for creative, helpful, unifying, and determined.
Chuds unite.
I am a
On
chud.
YouTube and stuff is like I will never accept their terms at face value when it comes to like debate or discussion. It's like I don't, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
I want them to break down.
That sounds awfully, you know, it kind of speaks to his mindset, saying that he will never take anything at face value. That sounds awfully sad and very paranoid. It's not a good way to go through life. Perhaps you could look at something and say, is there a reason not to take this at face value? Not just, I will not take this at face value. I don't know. It's a slight distinction, but God, it just seems so paranoid.
Yeah, he's very damaged, this guy.
Indeed. I hit play. Anytime now it should be
The
playing.
words that they use,
There we
if
go.
they don't know what those words mean, then why the fuck should I talk to you about them? You know what I mean? Like, you're the one that's got the problem with things, so you need to defend that. You know.
Why
how
don't you
about,
know what
like,
I think?
Yeah.
If I was
Why-
going to
why
respond
don't
to
you
these
like
questions,
being
I
called
would
a bigot?
probably say, like, the challenge for even a discussion, right? I'd be like, no, you write down exactly why you think, you know, me or my friends or whoever don't deserve respect or rights. You tell me exactly why that is, and we'll talk about that.
Why the hell do you think that we think that you and your friends don't deserve rights? Like, that is just
Respect,
so crazy.
maybe. I'll give him the respect. Like, I don't think he deserves any respect because he's a fucking asshole.
So
there's your
true. You
answer
do
there.
have to earn respect, but rights,
But
everyone is endowed with rights. Like, that is just so, I don't know. How could you possibly come to that weird conclusion? Dane, we think that you should have every right afforded to every single person. I don't think that rights should be based off of your independent choices or anything like that, aside from, you know, if you don't live up to the societal contracts, like, you know, robbing, stealing, killing, stuff like that, then you might lose some of your rights. But aside from that, everyone should be equal. I don't understand where you come to this conclusion.
Like Dane, Morgan, and Willow here, they all have the right to be assholes. And they are. They are
do.
exercising that right now.
Yeah, demonstrably.
You know what I mean?
It is interesting that they use straight men here instead of straight community, where it's like they're kind of
You caught me, Willow.
That gives away the ghost.
Well,
Yeah.
before,
Either way.
oh, you've given away your ghost.
Oh, by
I can't
by
say
community, I mean
I can't say
straight men.
Right.
Well, before, you see, you said community and that was wrong. Here, you didn't say community and that's wrong. So, you know, it's just all so crystal clear. I wish you had done the education. You should have done your homework. You need to educate yourself. You need to learn what they should have, what they wanted to hear, and then you should have put that there. It would have been best for you.
I should just put normal people, right? That's what Bob told me. This means normal.
Yeah. It's sad. I really wish that they would have engaged with this.
So
at least
stupid.
there is some conversation that came from this.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it probably the same sort of purge? Like, I'm just getting the same sort of vibes that you get from someone who is like, is it gay to love your wife?
It could be.
I'm getting that vibe from these
Is she a
questions.
handsome woman?
Do you think these are the kind of guys that
like, I guess.
don't wipe their asses because it's gay to touch your butthole or something? Like, is that
Probably.
Yeah.
Those are vicious lies. I wipe with vigor, sir.
Yeah.
gods. I don't want to
wipes.
think about that.
I've heard about that. I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently
I,
there's.
I,
It's
I
not
have
a
just
thing,
heard
you
about
fucking
that
moron.
now, and I wish
Yeah, I don't.
hadn't.
I've never heard of that. But
I mean,
then
it
again,
might
I'm not
be-
really
it might be a little
googling
bit of a meme,
men's
but,
wiping
I
habits.
think that's probably.
I think it's probably more prevalent than you think. Personally,
No.
I think that's one that has some.
That would be a
merit.
misconception there. Willow.
Why didn't I put whiskey in my coffee?
That could be a
tonight?
misconception.
Is it gay to have a clean butthole? Sorry.
I guess it depends the reasoning for
No,
it.
get
Your
a
opinion of
bidet.
scratching, you asshole.
It's
A
like,
bidet?
here's a bidet. How about that? Is that?
Right.
What do you think? I want a water dick
Anyway.
up my ass, Dane? I'm not gay.
I mean, there might be a percentage in there, but I gotta say, fan of the bidet.
Yeah,
It's
I like bidet, I'm not gonna lie.
they might have beaten us on technology. Those I'm assuming French from the word, but
yeah,
yeah,
we don't have it
yeah.
here in the United States. That's why shit in the shower.
yeah, it's the same type of technology. You know.
Yeah. So that one's dumb. And it's dumb. It's all dumb. Spoiler:
Yeah.
they're all dumb.
They're all dumb, yeah.
Apparently,
okay,
Yeah.
Now this one
we're dumb.
more
Yeah.
in the.
Oh, here we go. Yeah,
Hey,
this
question
one's another
3.
doozy.
Oh,
Oh,
boy.
it's a
And I
doozy.
bet Willow has some stuff about this one.
Yeah, this is
You got
right
some
on my
stuff for us,
I was
Willow?
gonna say, this is
Um,
this is your
When it comes to the role of pop culture in promoting diversity and inclusion, period, how can we distinguish between genuine representation and tokenism, and why is it important to do so?
Like, what I find especially frustrating with this is if you
You're
take
fucking
this
stupid.
at like if I talk about like okay, I might talk about stuff like the way corporations do stuff or something. There is an element that you could take out of this of like a genuine discussion about how okay, for example, autism gets used a lot. The reason we see this influx is like it's not just
Yes.
because it's like trending or something, but also because
They get
it's
it.
a really easy way to basically portray a disability without having to hire someone who's disabled really cheaply, because you can just literally pick any actor and you're good to go. You don't need any props,
get
anything
that.
else. You literally just right, and
also-
that's an example.
So if you don't really change anything about a character other than literally just like this, get the color of their skin or the sexual orientation that this character is, but you don't actually change anything about their backstory, is that authentic representation? I don't know. It seems like there is like some sort of question to be had here, some sort of conversation. This could be a jumping off point. I didn't equate it to ableism with autism, but
No.
yeah, like that is a good point. It does seem like there is something to be said about authentic, genuine representation. And there are, like there's a bunch of good examples of it, but how I would have kind of answered it is, authenticity and genuine concern or consideration for the character or the actual like property. You can kind of tell when they don't really care and when something has been changed. I think the term is like rainbow capitalism or whatever.
Yeah.
Where, they just slap like a rainbow on a package, but do they really give a shit? I don't know. It feels like it's not necessarily genuine, like it's just there to placate the masses, and
Right.
maybe this community will buy more this month, but we're not going to do anything different. I don't know. It seems like there is a conversation and kind of find out, hey, to you, what would authenticity mean with this, as opposed to just, I think they're at least familiar with that term. And then, it feels like with the tokenism thing, is the best choice actually made for the character and the actual property, or is it just kind of, I'm changing this one element, now look at how diverse we are? Like, is it really diverse if you didn't actually make that character authentic in any way? And it's just literally, I've heard it described, I think we talked about this in another episode, but a hand-me-down character. Is that the best way to kind of do this? I don't know. It could be done
I'm
well,
not sure.
because I've heard Miles Morales kind of portrayed that way. I don't know a ton about his backstory, like in the comics. I've kind of heard, how it came about, that it was kind of for representation, and so that the author could kind of see their kid in that role. Fair enough. But what I've seen in that Into the Spider-Verse thing, it seems like a fully fleshed out character. I don't know. I really enjoy it. It doesn't seem like it's just a knockoff. So it does feel like there is a conversation that could be had to what is the difference between like that comic origin and this origin? Why is the comic getting knocked that way, but this one isn't? If you want to bring it back to like comics and stuff, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be authentic representation. Since you were talking to DJ Eric, I'm pretty sure it would have been like representation of the LGBT community. But it would be interesting because, clearly we don't have the exact same perspective. It would be nice to have that from his perspective and understand what would be genuine to him. But I just don't see them engaging with this and actually taking it on legitimately.
Example of like if you were looking at, does the company mean this? Well, the answer is probably the company almost never means it.
Right.
Like the individual creators.
So they
who are
understand that,
involved in the
then.
project.
Yeah.
but like the company just wants money, right? Like that's why we you know we all know.
I forget if it's right now or not. You don't have to pause.
Pride Month, you know, is great, but also
But I think it's
You
Willow.
got like kind of rainbow.
Oh,
Answers
he
this
just
really
mentioned
well
rainbow.
for me.
Yeah, I think that
No,
is
rainbow,
right
yeah.
here, and he was talking about rainbow capitalism. Sorry, it was. I just didn't
All
want to overlap that, but I actually forgot that you
Yeah.
brought that up. So they're familiar with the concept. So it's like, okay, so you're familiar with this concept. What to you wouldn't be just that? Like, what would the company have to do to prove that they actually give a shit and they're not just putting like a a square on their Twitter or whatever?
Right.
They're not just putting a flag on their product. What would actually make you feel like they cared and it wasn't just like this for this month we'll add this little badge, but after that nothing? I would be interested because from my point of view, I'm not sure. There are some things that I thought were like genuine and pushing forward representation that I was told are no, like that's very tokenizing and that's
Right.
actually belittling. So I'd be interested because obviously I don't know. I know you're the one that wrote this question, but like I could see many ways that this could go, and it would be informative to someone who doesn't have the same point of view.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, I view the tokenism issues kind of like a similar way that you would view like a stolen valor.
Mm.
Like
For sure.
Go wearing this military uniform when you're not in the military and gaining all the respect and clout or sympathy, whatever other emotions it would cause based on a bullshit. So
Yeah.
I kind of, that's where I'm like, how do you figure out what's stolen valor and what's actually a company or a creator trying to do something positive. So that's what I was trying to suss out with this question.
For sure. And I think that could have led to like some really good conversation and hopefully some understanding.
Well, like I said, he actually, I think it's Willow and maybe Morgan actually answered this question pretty well for me.
I think I'm stepping on it right now, but they just said the rainbow capitalism part. So I think they're understanding
Capitalism going on, and where they do stuff, but then they're funding, oh, we support you, but then they're like funding bills against us or other bullshit at the same time, right? And so it's like,
Right.
and that's the real answer. Like that would be if you were going to say, hey, how do you know if a company actually cares? That's the answer.
Yeah.
Well, what are they
That's
actually
it.
doing? What
Thank
are
you.
they monetarily supporting? And the answer
like if
is
Chick-fil-A
none of them
suddenly
give a
has like rainbow flags out.
on the executive, on the
authentic?
bean counter level, no, they don't give a fuck.
right.
Nope.
And like
I've
that's
always
why,
said,
so writers,
like
individual creators, they do, but
like when we
Right,
talk
so,
about
like, if it's if the intention of the
queer
company
representation
is
in
not
comics,
in line with the tokenism or the valor, stolen valor that I like to call it, then we don't support it, right? Like that's how we would tell.
Yeah. And that's kind of what it would be interesting to hear it from his perspective because like I don't know, a lot of it from the outside seems like they're just slapping like a flag on this, but does it really mean anything? Do they care? I don't know. Is that enough? Like, would that be authentic? Could it be authentic if that's all that you could get through with the board is
Right.
like, you can put this on there, but this is as far as we'll let you. I don't know. It's an interesting conversation to have because I don't know from his perspective. From the outside perspective, like from mine, it seems to me like they just think, well, here's the popular opinion. We might sell more during this month. Let's throw this on there. I don't know that that's necessarily true though. It might just be a feeling that I have. I'd be interested to hear an opposing opinion, and if that's still a good thing, even if it's not authentic, because it's actually getting representation out there. It's making people think of it at least.
Right.
I don't know. I'd be interested to know his opinion because I clearly don't, and I don't want to mind read.
Let's hear it.
Should be playing any second.
earlier in the month.
Yep.
Boy, that seemed like a long time ago when times were good. Wow, let's go back to that. Let's just do a podcast about that.
8 years ago, also known as 4 weeks.
But yeah, like when we talk about Marvel, like, you know, I mean, I guess maybe some of them probably care to a degree, but like, is that their main priority? No. On some level, it's cynical. On some level, it's like,
That's the other thing too.
Groups
Like,
say that this is going to get us certain more reach.
how much of a company needs to believe in something before their whatever would be authentic? Because clearly everybody's going to have different opinions. So like a company isn't a monolith either. I don't know. And you'd have to kind of respect the opinions of some of the employees or whatever who have different opinions. I don't know. It would be interesting. I would want to know what authentic representation means to someone who's looking for some sort of representation.
Right.
I don't know. I guess I've just never felt represented and don't really care, but that could be my privilege apparently.
It is.
But then you've got the creators that we highlighted when we talked about,
Exactly.
Vita Ayala, Leah Williams, that are like, clearly you read these comics and it's like they care a lot and they are
Right.
pouring their own
Right.
experiences and perspectives into this.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
why
I'd be
I'll always say,
interested to
like,
hear
I mean,
that.
I'll even a lot of things I'll say that where it's like, you can celebrate the representation, but I'm probably never going to celebrate the company specifically for doing it because I know they don't give a shit. Like that's
Right.
not, I don't really care about that. So like that's the main thing is if you're really having a discussion about it, it would really be along that line. Like, but they're obviously not doing that. And then there's this weird, focus on tokenism. It's like, and that's really frustrating because obviously tokenism is a real problem that really does happen.
Well, I mean, it's pretty. There is a definition for it too. That's the frustrating thing. We talk about freaking what's his nuts. Eric. Yeah, Derek August, and how he calls.
Oh, I thought maybe they were talking about
he
you.
literally said that, like, if it is another version of a character, whether it's a recasting or a legacy character or like an adaptation casting, then it's a token. And it's like, those aren't what a token is at all.
That's not his definition.
It's pretty
Yeah,
clear cut. It's like it's a character that's not the primary character. It's not they're not given much agency or role, and like before in the last maybe 10-15 years that character often was like fodder to get killed off or something like that. It's just, it's like, oh, let's throw one of these in there. Like it's almost like you take them out and the story would still be the same, basically.
Right.
And that's not what Miles Morales is. That's not what
yeah. Well, yeah, and that goes back to like, so then to look at like what's genuine, and this is where it's like I don't give a shit what's genuine. Like going back to like what I said, like the main thing was right. Like I don't expect like the main money behind this stuff to be genuine. Like it's probably not, but something could be.
So I guess like this is where I think the conversation could be very interesting. So then is it a good thing that the flag is there if it's not genuine? If it's just something to appease someone? Is it just like the fact that the flag is on the product? Is that good? Or because they're saying they don't care, but they don't care as in it's a good thing, or they don't care as in it's a bad thing?
Yeah, them. I'm not sure what them means.
Here's the thing, right? Actually, looking at a bunch of representation stuff I've done, a lot of times the best autistic representation is not on purpose. A lot of disability representation I like probably wasn't intentional. It was probably literally accidental, right? Like I'm working on writing about the Willow film right now, and like one of the things I found out when I was looking up for that was like they wanted to put these giant ass earlobes on all the Noan, but it just ended up being not practical, and it got in the way of the costume and stuff like that. And so they ended up not doing it, and that would have been horrible. Like that would have been like worse representation. And so like there's a lot of things like that where like good representation half time is like purely accidental. And so like it's actually rare that you see that they try to do it and it's good.
They were
like,
just talking about Willow. Like
awful.
apparently
like,
they were
most
supposed to have giant
that,
earlobes.
Autistic people relate to.
It would have been weird.
Like,
I heard that
is usually like headcanon.
I hadn't heard that. That would have been really weird. I'm glad they didn't go that route.
Yeah,
that would
pretty
have,
awful.
Definitely taken away. That being said, I don't know. Like there is something like almost as weird where they, put a bunch of little people in Ewok suits and stuff. I mean, I granted it's a different world. It's a long time ago in a place far, far away. But I don't know. I loved the Ewoks. I don't know. Would that be a bad representation now, or would like the Lollipop Guild? Yeah, exactly. Would that be bad representation?
The Lollipop Guild.
I think it might be because it's kind of, depicting them a certain way that might not be the most positive, but I don't know. I always loved the Munchkins from those films. I'm not sure. And that'll be an interesting discussion to have. Like, I honestly don't know. I don't have strong opinions other than like, well, I like them. I wish they didn't have to go away, but like, what would be your idea if we were to remake this? Like, what should it be? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Wasn't there a whole thing too recently with, and I'm sure the internet can correct me if I'm wrong, but Peter Dinklage, didn't he have an issue?
Yeah, with the Seven Dwarfs, the Snow White live action thing that I think they're doing. I don't know. I would want to look a little bit more into the controversy, but yes, there was quite a controversy, and a lot of people kind of were claiming that it's kind of like lowering or raising the ladder up behind you. I'm not sure. That definitely deserves more of a deep dive than this. Off the top of my head, I don't remember. But yeah, when they're talking about representation, that feels like this is where that question was supposed to go. And it seems like a really good conversation that could be had. Because I definitely am no expert, and I don't know if I'm being ignorant about it, and I would be open to the fact that I could be. So I think you were quite the same in that same manner. Ken, it should be playing.
where it's like
Yeah.
this character is just kind of coded.
Data.
And that's the same for a lot of queer characters too. Like a lot of the things that are done on purpose. Like I'd say that's changing
Garrett,
a little more. Like we've
he's
definitely
right
gotten.
there's one on screen, you know.
Yeah, like
I mean,
yeah. So
you
the
did say
actor played
something-
him so coded that that Berman had to fucking give him a girlfriend to show how straight he is.
Berman.
Fucking Berman.
But Willow, you did say something pretty crucial a second ago. And
don't
know
I'm
Star
sorry,
Trek
lore
I
that much.
got to do this. Here's the thing.
Okay,
I didn't want
when
to interrupt
that
you,
happened.
but you-
Society.
You did start off saying, "Okay, here's the thing." It's like must resist interrupting. But yeah, so
Totally went with the flow of conversation.
and also
right
the
there.
genuine representation thing. Like, there's no way to know because so let's say
Just pay attention to the
He's
fact
not
that they hate the word.
subjective.
Pay attention to the fact they hate the word
possibly
genuine.
know is if the creator said that I genuinely believe this, and then it's still you have to just trust the word of that person,
Right.
you know. And it's like
You can't
so many
trust
false
people.
framings in this. These guys just
They're trying to
you know,
trick you.
and some of it
I'm saying I'm genuinely
think
not a
maybe
racist
don't
or bigot.
realize is a
Don't trust
fallacy. Like I think overall that these are pretty bad faith, but I think some stuff within them might just be they don't even understand it's a fallacy.
Yeah,
so
rather
we just
bad
don't
faith.
ask that
understand.
kind of question.
like,
Or
this
bad
question
faith or
might
we're
be
stupid.
one of that, where the way they understand the word token, this idea that like again like our culture in general really focuses on like intent instead of like where it's like what's the best way to tell intent is like looking at the pattern of actions.
Well,
Like,
and then
not,
patterns.
not guessing what they're thinking, not guessing like you know I don't know. Yeah, it's just a weird.
What's my pattern of intentions? You seem to be talking about you need to actually look at the pattern. What's Patrick's patterns of intentions? If that's your tool that you're using to actually judge us, shouldn't you be able to explain what the pattern is?
Yeah,
I don't
and
know.
By their logic, shouldn't based on my pattern, I should be a fucking saint. I should be the ideal person they want listening to their channel.
Yeah, somebody who is willing to change, willing to listen, but would be willing to explain their part as well. They don't want to hear your part.
No.
So it's not really a conversation, and that is the problem.
When you get
It's a useless question. Like there's
It is.
no.
The
Like-
last part of the question, though, I wanted
It's
to
useless.
hit on too, because
Yeah.
for one, it's not to you. It's not important to you. You guys make it. You know, these guys make it all about like
These
how does it
guys.
feel to them? Does this come off as forced? Is it heavy-handed? It's like it really doesn't. Your opinion on that doesn't matter because it is so subjective. The opinions that matter are the people being represented, the perspective being represented.
Right.
Isn't that
get
why
upset
we're
about
asking one or an attempt to?
character, right?
Yeah,
I'll
why is
use,
it important?
Reva from Star Wars. As because that was the big furor
You
around
mean the
her.
clown
Yeah,
person?
it's bait and
Like,
switch.
Yes,
that's
the clown
one-
person from
One
Obi-Wan.
character in a whole show where the lead is a white guy. The
Okay.
person he is protecting is a white girl. The
Yes.
bad guy is a white guy voiced by a black guy. Like,
Well, but you got to you understand that she was a bad actor, and there's never been any bad acting in Star Wars.
Wait, right. That's the other thing. Is it comes down to this quality thing. It's like
But isn't that the criticism that she's a bad actor and the character doesn't necessarily make sense? So when you put the two
Yeah.
together, it's like this is a total failure. Whereas he's saying, okay, she's a bad actor. Well, there's other bad actors, so deal with it. I don't know.
And-
It feels like you could criticize it without being called racist.
And that show, by the way, they were all bad actors. Like the
Yeah,
whole
I
fucking show was
really
bad
did not
acting,
like that
bad
child.
story.
It wasn't like the white
Oh,
people
she
were
was
all
brutal.
great in there.
No, she
yes,
was cute.
the whole-
She was a cute kid, but
I guess, but I don't know that
Her-
whole like running and getting caught in like I don't know, and even Ewan McGregor's lines where he calls her by the wrong, he calls her I don't know. I really did not like the acting in that
That was
show,
her
and
mother's
I
name.
usually really like Ewan McGregor. There were some cool things though,
Yeah, I
for
like him
sure.
too.
I like the lighting with lightsabers, like that was really cool. But is that worth an entire show? No. I don't know. Yeah, but getting back to Reva, I don't think that's people's criticism of the character that she's just bad acting, so racism. I don't know. It seems weird. But people are saying that it's a weird insert for diversity. I have heard that. I don't know. I'm not sure. Everyone wore helmets. It's hard to say whether or not
Yeah.
there would have been more diversity in there. It clearly wasn't shown in the first few films, and I think you could do it in a way that doesn't like take away from it. Like I don't see a lot of people screaming about the character Finn. Like I don't know. It seemed to be like perfectly acceptable. Like yeah, who is under like those things? I don't know.
and again, if you want to go back to Finn, and I'm not sure if I'm getting ahead of myself because I've watched this a couple times. They're like, everybody freaked out about Finn, and everybody freaked out about Finn.
Did they?
And we have to.
Maybe I'm misremembering
I think
it, but
some people may. I guess I don't know. I don't remember being upset about it because I like that actor. He was
for sure. Boyega. There was a lot of potential too, like from that first film, like what they could do with the character. I think it was a complete waste after that. But
and he was in this little movie. Shit, I'm probably gonna forget the name of it. It was like an English movie. He was quite a bit younger, and it was about these like creatures that or aliens.
It's not Attack the Block, but it's
I
know the one. Is it Attack the Block?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that one a lot too. Back in the day.
That's where I knew him from.
For sure.
And then it strikes me really funny because Willow had said, or maybe he says in a little while, that you have to look at the company's intentions and what the company is doing outside of their representation of virtue signaling, whatever we want to call it. And what the company was doing was making posters in another country and hiding John Boyega's face and obscuring it, and so like. That doesn't seem like they're being genuine about wanting a black lead.
And then when you're looking at like patterns, it's not just that poster, it's additional posters. And it seems to be Disney's marketing with China. They seem to be, like playing down skin colors, clearly like making, so the Little Mermaid's the other one that they keep talking about, where they kind of toned down her skin color.
They made it blue.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's weird. If they're going to talk about patterns, why can't you mention, hey, I see this pattern. It seems like, they might be talking out of one side of their mouth where we support this, but their actual financial actions show that they're doing things against their own statement in different markets because they think that's what will actually sell there. That doesn't seem like authentic representation if they don't actually give a shit and they're not putting their money where their mouth is. They're literally just talking and then putting their money elsewhere. Sorry, go right ahead.
No, that's okay. I think I've actually told you this theory I have about Disney. Disney, obviously has been around for a long time. And, there's jokes and rumors and stuff like that. At a certain point, Walt Disney didn't even want Jews in his park. Like, and so there's a long history of really bad representation in Disney. And, you had like the old crows, the racist crows, and like, there were kind of like a tremendous amount of tropes in their older films.
For sure.
Where they would
the
be
whole
looked at.
Song of the South.
Yeah. They'd be looked at today as like, holy shit. So I think Disney's executives and their whatever, their marketing people, I don't know, the creatives had kind of taken a look at this situation and projected ahead and said, you know what, everybody is getting ripped apart because they're looking into their past and they're looking into their old IPs. And I think that what they did was they went on full overcompensation mode.
It could be. And it definitely seems like they're trying to protect against that possible accusation.
They swung the pendulum so hard. Because I think they're being disingenuous, but they swung the pendulum so hard that then they forgot, like, oh wait, shit, China, who is like probably 50% of their income, if not more, like this shit, and they're like, let's hide it a little bit. So I don't necessarily, I don't find any of Disney's diversity or inclusion to be genuine.
Yeah,
I'll still watch all the movies.
Yeah, for sure. And I've watched. I think all of them that had like the controversy, like I think that Luca one had some controversy. So did Strange World or whatever. I don't know. I like them, and I'd like to see what the controversy is and how it's actually played, how it plays in context with the actual story that they're telling. I don't know. I just, it seems like there could be a conversation about genuine representation.
Genuine.
But they don't want to do that.
Like, we're allowed to have bad parts. Like,
all of
yeah,
that was bad.
And even Phil, she wasn't even bad to me. Like, I don't think she was bad. And like,
she's terrible.
You know what? Honestly,
that could be a conversation.
Kind of a guess.
Why was she not bad?
It's just like, they just
what part of it was
like
good?
The tone of a black woman or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, there's some kind of weird bias going on in there that maybe they don't even realize it. That like,
we're just being racist by not liking.
Oh yeah, there's probably some misogynoir. I wouldn't be surprised by it.
Yeah, I think it's sort of the same or similar to
you say misogynoir.
The
isn't misogyny
when
towards
we saw the trailer
black?
for Force Awakens with Finn.
I think so. I gotta write that one
down. Finn is going to be a protagonist, and he's a black guy, and he's going to be the Jedi because you see him in the trailer with the lightsaber. And even though he wasn't, like, there was all of this like
It was so much worse.
it was so much worse. Yeah. Oh God. Can we go
Okay,
back
so at
to-
least they're
no,
not in
I don't want
favor
us to
of
go back to
Finn's
that
character
either, 'cause
arc.
that
No, I
was
was saying they
Okay.
thought it was going to be Finn, but it ended up being so much worse. It
So
was Mary
much worse.
Oh,
Sue's.
I misunderstood
Oh,
what he
okay,
said.
God.
I thought he
Let's
meant
go.
Finn's actual arc turned out so much worse.
Gods. But yeah, it's like everyone else in that movie is cater, the show is catering to you. Like here's this central, I mean, sort
I
of
do not feel like
co-central
Obi-Wan
antagonist of the
was
show
catering towards me.
doesn't look
No.
right to you, so you're gonna hyperfixate on that.
Well, let's be clear. They
yeah.
were hyperfixating on it before the show debuted.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that
Oh
They
yeah,
were
as soon as they see the
pre-upset.
trailers, yeah.
gives it away
Yeah,
so fast. And
The other thing I just thought about this question too is like, it's like how do you know? Like, okay, well, the same thing that you should always do with this stuff is like, if you're not part of a community, then like you should hopefully have voices, whether that's in your circle or YouTube or wherever, that are part of this community. So you have.
Did you ask a voice
variety
on
of opinions,
YouTube?
and not just one. Like you shouldn't
No.
like, you know,
Oh, okay.
one queer person that you get
I
their
just-
opinion from. Like you should have.
I just found
multiple
some
that
queer
you
people
trust
on
that
the
you-
street and just I randomly
Yeah.
went up to them.
It was just at random. You had like a
Yeah.
dartboard. It was all, you put all their pictures on it and you just threw it randomly.
There-
No, I
there's
know
a
your
guy.
methods.
Yeah, there's a guy across the street who's got a pride flag up. So I just knocked on his door. As soon as he opened the door, I started shouting the questions in his face. He
Mm.
He wasn't receptive. I don't know.
That seems weird.
I thought that's
I
how
hope
you
one
do
day
it.
he'll be open as well. It
Yeah.
just doesn't.
I mean, I wasn't going to do anything crazy like have a whole conversation about it and have someone
please,
ask
no.
me to send them questions and have a 6-week long fucking conversation prepping this. I wasn't going to do that. I just like to
No,
rant.
that
Yeah.
that seems unreasonable. Like, of course, no, just shout it at him. He'll understand.
Sure.
Like that's how you'd find out if it was good representation, is from listening to people who actually have those experiences and are knowledgeable.
And I'm sure you didn't want to
Like,
listen to somebody who
This-
has that
like
experience.
I feel like even the question
No.
itself is framed in a way where
Frame.
it's kind
Maybe
of like
you
I'm
could
saying
listen
about the
to 'em?
companies, where it's like, well, your actions should kind of play into that. It sounds like what you want is you want to know what's correct, so then you can go around saying what's correct to everyone. And it's like, well, no, it's a shifting dialogue depending on the thing. Like some of these things are very complex.
It's slippery.
Like, in fact, a lot of
There's a lot of ins,
representation is
a
good,
lot of outs, a
can
lot
be
of what
both good
have
and
yous.
bad, right? Like, there's going to be elements of both. And so like you need to have like a nuanced set of opinions or discussion around that if you're genuinely interested in doing that. That stuff already exists. Like you don't need someone to like explain it to you as if it's like some one-off rule that you can always follow. It's literally like people are already talking about these things. Like it's already out there. Like it's not like you can't find it.
So people have talked about it. They won't, though.
can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
That audio.
Yeah, you
hiccup
sound like an
happened,
asshole.
so, hope I didn't have to restart again. But all right. Well, that one's thoroughly taken apart, I think.
Oh, they took us apart.
Moving on. This is where
Great
it gets
job, guys.
challenging, maybe. I don't know.
Oh boy.
Okay. How can companies effectively support and uplift marginalized groups without it being perceived as mere virtue signaling or profiting off their struggles? And just right off the
I
bat,
guess I feel like I preemptively answered this one a little bit.
Don't give money to Republicans.
well, yeah, but also like I do want to kind of honestly give a little bit of credit that like you acknowledge that there are marginalized groups.
Why would you think that we wouldn't acknowledge that?
Of course, there's fucking marginalized groups.
That seems really weird. We understand there are margins and there are people who are then marginalized.
Yeah.
What that seems just so, I don't know, bigoted,
This is-
closed-minded of you to think that of us.
Yeah, it would almost be like a misconception you have about us.
You know,
Yeah.
like
Fair enough. Yeah.
instead of people that are like, oh, well, we got it, everything's fine. There's no racism or whatever. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
Who
it's
has
still the
ever
thing where it's
claimed
like,
that?
I don't care if it's virtual signaling. Like again, that to me that goes back to the
That's just called marketing.
whether or not they mean it or not. And it's like
Yeah.
from the company perspective, like
If you like this
it's
question more,
marketing
we
for
could have
them.
come
It is
with this.
marketing. Like it's always going to
Sure.
be marketing from the company level. Like so, who cares? Like I don't like to me. It's always kind of like listen, they're going to profit off it regardless, and that's their main motive always, 100% of the time. But like, you know, again, it's like, are you contributing? Like, are you paying marginalized people? Like literally, like if you were going to voice a story, like this is kind of like that was actually a big thing. You know, I got to interview.
See, like that's an interesting idea or opinion. Like I hadn't thought that you'd actually have to pay marginalized people in order to. I would want to kind of explore that more. Like that is not an answer that I thought would, come up from a question like this. But that's an interesting answer, and it seems like you could have a conversation from
Yeah.
there. I'd want to kind of explore that and find out, like, I don't know, does that extend to everything essentially? But yeah, that's a very interesting question or response to this that I hadn't have thought that would have gone. That seems like it could be a really cool conversation.
Yeah, Willow is definitely a bit of an asshole. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. He's got
They
a
have a
chip on his
tendency.
shoulder. They have a chip on their shoulder. I'm so bad at pronouns.
They
have
have some skill with the eye makeup though. Like at
yeah.
least matching the makeup to the outfit. Like there's something there. It kind of captures your attention.
Yeah, sunburst orange eyeshadow. I'm sorry. No, you don't fucking do that. You look jaundice. Like, I don't give a shit if you're a man or a woman or anything in between. You look like an asshole, and not because you're wearing makeup, because of the makeup you chose.
To each their own. I
It's
think
a terrible,
eye makeup's
terrible
kind of
color
on
for his
point,
complexion.
but maybe I just like the style. But okay, fair enough. I'm not the most stylish, so I could definitely be wrong on my opinions on there. But yeah, I can see the jaundice.
They look like their liver's failing.
Well, I hope that is not the case at any point.
Me too. Go to the doctor.
Recently, who's a little person advocate, and like that was one of the big things. We were kind of laughing. I was like pay us. Like if you can do an autism story, if you can do a career story or whatever, like then like there's plenty of people to take those jobs, and at all levels. Like you should have writers, you should have actors, you should have whatever. Like you should not always like it feels like they're always trying to do like the absolute bare minimum, or like even if for some reason you can't, are you giving stuff to charities? I mean, there's issues with that too, but like at least it's something. But if you literally are taking zero action and you're making all this money and you're doing nothing for the community that you're profiting off of, then yeah, obviously, like that goes back to the action. Like you obviously don't give a shit. It might still be good representation, but like
so
it's still shitty that you're
good.
not like you're profiting off of this without like giving anything back at all.
So I could definitely understand that. And I was going to ask, like, you know, if somebody is donating to charity in the name of like whatever, is that authentic, or is that again just like a virtue signaling thing? Like, you see, we donated to the Don't Say Gay bill or whatever, donated to pro advocacy for that. Against it. I'm trying to remember what, I guess it would be against it to oppose the Don't Say Gay bill. Or the Parental Rights in Education Act, whatever the hell it was called. But I mean, like, so that was a very interesting answer. It's not necessarily what I would have thought of. Like, I would have wanted to know a little bit more about charity. Like, is there a minimum amount? Like, do they have to be donating like all the profits for this month for it to like truly count? Or if it is just a minimal amount, like, is there such a thing as like incrementalism here, where like any little bit helps, it's better than nothing, and we can work our way towards what they consider proper representation? Which I'd want to know what eventually proper representation would be.
Whole point of the question.
Yeah. And if I were to answer this, I would say, live your actual principles. Like, are they just doing it for this month? Do they actually care? You don't have to other the opposition. Like, I feel like that's what a lot of these companies did. Like the Gillette razor thing and the whole like Bud Light thing. It feels like they kind of othered their, previous audience. And I feel like that's what kind of turned it off, where they had to other someone in order to show representation. Yeah. I don't know that that's necessarily a positive thing, or it shows that you genuinely care. And then, just somehow genuinely care, not shifting with the political breeze, as it seems. And it seems like you'd have to, just make the character authentic. So I think a lot of the things that they touched upon would also be my answer. I don't know that necessarily every level of creation, like if the writer, if the producer, if the director, if the actor, if everyone has to be part of that representation, I would want to know that. And then, like, when we say the proper amount, would that be based off of like societal percentage? I don't know. I would want to understand what they would mean by representation. But I don't disagree that, it is weird to put somebody in a costume as opposed to getting an authentic actor in front of there. There is going to be some authenticity that they bring, but I don't know if everyone behind the scenes has to be part of that same community. I'd be interested to hearing their opinion on it, though. That would be interesting.
I mean, I find it just interesting that they're answering the question.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like this could have been a cool conversation, but instead, again, we're just talking to our own sides. So that's unfortunate, and it's not the outcome that we wanted. I don't know why it's taken like 5 seconds to play.
It's okay.
And I wanted to add real quick that like that is the answer, spot on. But that's like the answer for people that because sorry, virtue signal is the word that, as far as I remember, was like a lightning strike to me back in like 2016 or so, when I had a Facebook group. I've talked about it, a Marvel Facebook group, and I would post like some picture of Captain Marvel, like Carol Danvers version or something, and or Ms. Marvel, and somebody would comment and go, "Oh, I'm tired of this virtue signaling." And I just remember this moment of being like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" You know,
I had that same moment with in 40K.
So it seems like he
communities on
previously
Facebook.
had a
and
misconception,
so I mean,
and now
when
he's
how
understood.
can we or how can
Crazy.
companies do something to make those people not perceive virtue signaling? They can't.
They can't.
Because
Yeah.
there's
Right.
people that are just gonna see anything as that, and yeah, they're
Not only that, and I think we've seen this with
So that's also a weird way that he's reading the question, as if you're asking how can it be perceived by every single person as not virtue signaling, as opposed to like, hey, you yourself, you are a part of one of these communities, this marginalized community. How would it not seem like virtue signaling to you personally?
Right.
I don't think you were asking how can you possibly make it so that nobody would ever lay a claim of virtue signaling.
No.
I don't know. It just seems very strange and again paranoid to go there.
It's Dane.
the few things, just because I saw it sitting on the shelves today, Wizards of the Coast put out their Lord of the Rings Magic the Gathering set, and the depiction of Aragorn in that set is he's black. Based on everything I've known about WotC over the years, they did that to virtue signal because they know that this group of people is going to get upset online, and that they see that as free advertising.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Graphics
Like a
card
lot
again.
of like
Green.
you know, that actually that was mentioned in the interview as well. She mentioned like there's like 3 different
There we
films or something with like little people basically coming out. It's like we didn't ask for this, like, and it's basically gonna cause a bunch of shit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's gonna suck for the community, and then a lot of them are probably not even gonna hire little people actors in that
Right.
case. And it's like, yeah, it's just frustrating. Basically, the worst of both worlds. It's like
Mhm.
not only are you using our struggles, our stories, but you're not even letting us tell them. You're not even gonna pay us for it, and you're gonna like now use us in like the marketing. I mean, that was actually a complaint I had. Like, yeah, even some of the things where it's like not.
So I'd be interested in knowing. Sorry, I know this is going back to what Morgan was saying instead of what Willow was saying, but I'd be interested to know what their definition of virtue signaling is, because
Yeah.
when they're talking about that Wizards of the Coast, so the Magic cards being released with like Black Aragorn and a bunch of race swapped characters, he says that is virtue, or sorry, they say that is virtue signaling. I don't know. I'd like to understand what they mean by that, because I'm not sure if that is. So I'd like to understand what they mean by it, but I don't know. It seems like to me that's trying to create a controversy to sell these cards so that you get kind of like this political advertisement, and you get people who, you know, because of one side of the issue will support this, not necessarily fans of it. It might bring in other people who would just politically agree with that idea. Could that be virtue signaling? I guess I would just like to know how he's how they are quite defining this so that I could be on board with that same thing. But I would like to know how that's virtue signaling, and it seems like he's saying that that's a good thing, or they are saying that that's a good thing. I'd like to understand. I don't perceive virtue signaling as a good thing. It seems like it's instead,
Me neither.
you know, people profiting off the struggles like you have in the question. But I don't know. It seems like there's a good conversation to be had, but again,
Yeah.
unfortunate.
As bad, like it's still frustrating where it's like you kind of that was okay. I love the Loki show. That was actually still a complaint I had where like they did
Hey,
the
he
marketing
also
thing
liked
and
the
they
Loki.
didn't
They
really
also
do
liked the Loki.
No.
anything with that, and it was kind of like
See,
you know
common
that's the kind
ground.
of thing where it's like look,
Yeah,
you
that
like the show,
comment.
like that's shitty.
I did
So
not like
you
it.
did a marketing thing that
Loved
you had to know, like
Yeah, you queer baited as hard as you possibly could.
right,
and
and it's just it's frustrating. Like
I think it would have been more telling. I think that if they wanted to do that, the version of Loki he should have fallen in love with should have been a dude, right? Like, because very clearly he develops some sort of attraction to I can't remember what she calls herself, but the other
Sylvie.
Sylvie.
well, the
or
best
yeah.
the best theory the
Love
guy
Sylvie.
honestly,
Female Loki.
in some ways that theory like made the end of the show like disappointing for me.
Yeah.
But like was that one I forget, like Dane shared someone where, like they thought that like Sylvie was going to be trans. I'm like that would be amazing. And it would
That'd
fit
be very cool,
the
yeah.
marketing, and it would actually fit the story really well.
Mhm.
That would have been a huge
but, like,
controversy and probably would
Yeah,
have
like that would have been a great way of
gotten
like,
a
you
lot of
could have easily
interest in
done
that story.
Yeah.
and that
More
would
so
have
than
been
the ending
incredible.
got.
Yeah, but can't you just,
But yeah,
you know,
I forget
like he
which
said about the
which figure
autistic
was.
representation that is by
Sorry,
accident?
but-
Couldn't you just say, like, see
Yeah.
it in her that she's
Your
trans?
headcanon.
Because
For sure.
in your
People are doing that
headcanon,
with
you just-
Spider-Gwen.
well, I mean, even with her, I mean, she's a female, she's a woman version of Loki.
Mhm.
So, you know, like that's trans in some way, isn't it?
It feels like it.
In some
I don't
kind
know.
of,
It's a female version of that person. So yeah.
Like it is
I don't
Loki,
know.
but it's the female version. So I mean, if headcanon, that could be trans.
Yeah, and
I mean,
would
I
that count
personally
as
don't-
representation of some kind? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I personally don't give a fuck if Sylvie is trans or not. But I could see when we're talking about virtue signaling and these things like that, where people might have wanted to see that. But I thought they did a pretty nice job.
I think it was wasted potential. I thought the whole show looked amazing, and there was so much that could have happened. But
I agree.
we'll have to talk about Loki in the future. 'cause,
Season 2 coming.
yeah.
Well, this is the
I can remember
franchise that felt the need to pat itself on the back for like the character in Cap's group therapy session in Endgame like mentions he went on a date with a guy, and they like did a media tour to pat themselves on the back for that.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, that is so.
But
Like
yeah.
I think that's the difference.
So some representation
Isn't that what
doesn't
they want?
matter.
that in the movie, but then
Some of
you
it's
don't
not
talk
who
good.
about it.
don't talk. Yeah.
If an interview asks you about it, just be like, yeah, whatever. It's just a fucking character in a movie. Let's move on.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
So
downplay
that's
that.
them
It's like the
profiting
layer
off
more
their struggle.
sincere almost.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's weird because it seems like
It's hard
that's
to
not
discern.
good enough.
Yeah.
And if you, so it feels like in the movie it wasn't like super ham-fisted, like shoving this in your face. So if you say that in the press interview, apparently now you've gone too far. I don't know. It's strange. I'd like to know exactly
Yeah.
what would
Would've
be
been
good representation because I don't understand. It feels like that one's not ham-fisted and it's not over the top. So shouldn't that be pretty good? It seems like that would be
Yeah.
normalizing, but
Once
I don't
again, perfect reason for this question.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's the layers that are frustrating. Where it's like it's frustrating that that's all it is, but then you're also pushing because again, like that's what I mean. Where it's like it's become this extra layer where not only are we dealing with the shittiness as far as like not being allowed to write those stories ourselves or necessarily play the part.
You can't write that.
a lot of times. But then also now it's become part of the marketing thing where they know that like people are gonna hate it and
Yep.
react to it, and they're gonna get a free buzz from it, and so you're playing up this thing that's like a joke. It's like a nothing thing. And yeah, it's just it gets really. So if anything, companies have like found ways to profit more off of this stuff, and it's like that's.
And that's
but
what they're
again,
gonna do, right? They're companies. They're
So
people
always
asking
gonna
these
do
should
questions,
that.
companies not
like,
be
never-
political then? It seems
they're
like
not
that could
interested
go
in
for
this.
that
They're
too.
not interested in like the actual material side of this, of how it affects the
No.
community is, or how it affects like the workers. Like it's such a disingenuous way of framing it, where it's like there's a real thing in here.
You're
but
disingenuous.
You don't actually give a shit about that. Like,
Hmm,
I don't.
You don't care.
You,
But it's- I
you
find that
want
even
the
more
accolades
frustrating.
and the
Well,
profit.
and let's be clear here too. Companies profit off of everyone's struggles all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking weird, and this is where the same people are like, oh, wow, why is it bigotry? This is why, because when it happens in every other facet, you don't fucking make a peep. But when it comes to
Peepless.
a queer character or something that's like, it just capitalism is profiting off of suffering all the time, every day,
Right, yeah,
throughout
it's
the
like
day,
what we
all
live
day
in.
long. When you're asleep, when you're taking a shit, we're all fucking being profited off of our misery.
Remember, suffering is inherent to capitalism. Nobody has suffered in any
Okay.
form of any form of government other than capitalistic, any form of economics, I guess. I don't know. It just seems so weird
know.
and so paranoid. That seems like such a pessimistic worldview. Take the white pill, Dane. Things are better now than they have ever been, and we have
Yeah.
so much more, and things are so free. I don't know. I would take this
Yeah.
time over, pre-civil rights any day of the week. Go back further, it's even worse. I don't know. I think you're not giving credit to a lot of the good things that are out there. And you know what, buddy? Things are looking up, and it's going to be all right. You should,
Yeah.
you should go for a nice walk, feel the sun come down on you.
Get some-
Get some
get some
vitamin
fucking
D.
therapy.
It would be great. If you can't do the therapy, at least get a little bit of exercise, get some fresh air. Things are good. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah. Maybe like wear
Yeah.
some brighter colors, like Willow.
It's true.
Brighten up your life.
Take a page out of Willow's book.
Yeah. Get some of that
Yeah,
that
exactly.
sunburst orange.
it's like no one's escaping this. This is literally all that there is. Yeah. Like
It's this weird like, why aren't I getting a 14th character that looks like me to buy merchandise for? I don't want to buy the black action figure or the gay guy action figure or the trans man action figure. I want
That
another
is
cis het
the
white
most
guy
usual criticism
with,
I hear.
chin stubble and a 6-pack, but he's not too bulky.
But it's also like talking about, mentioned the Aragorn being black in the Magic cards. Okay, so think about this. You've got literally every piece of media adaptation, everything that's ever been done about, you know, I mean, just like with Aragorn, he's been a white dude. Those things still exist. There's a bunch of it. You can go consume it anytime you want to. And then even with the cards, it's literally just like a shade of color it's a little bit darker on this one card. And that somehow is ruining something to you? Like, what the fuck?
But that would only go one way, right? Like if you were to take a previously gay character and make them straight, a previously character of color and make them now white, you know, you still have that previous stuff. Why does it affect you so much? Now, now we've got this version of the character. Of course, that would come off as bigoted and everything in their books. I don't know. It seems like it should be open for some sort of conversation as to, hey, how come you have to take this one established character and change it as opposed to, why can't we just make an awesome new character? But
I mean, some people have a little bit of an issue with change. I mean, I love Doctor Who, and every time there was a fucking new Doctor, I had a nervous break. Doctor Who, I had a nervous breakdown because I was like, I fucking love this last Doctor. I don't want to deal with the new Doctor. And then it took me a little time, and I got used to it, and I liked it. And then the same thing would happen again. And it's like,
it definitely is what kind of took me out of that show. Like I'd get like into one Doctor's run and it's like, I don't know. Do I want to follow another one?
And then all of a sudden it's like, who's this old guy?
Yeah.
Like, but you start to watch and you get into it a little bit more. But it just, everybody has a problem with change, especially if it's a character that you self-identified with and loved. And it changes that to something else to represent something else. I could see where people would be like, oh, wait, I don't like that now.
For sure. And it doesn't seem like that would have to be out of bigotry. It could be out of love of the character and for your identification with it.
And like I said, if we took Miles Morales and all of a sudden we're like, you know what, this is going to be Matt Montgomery now, and
it feels like someone would have something to say about that, and it wouldn't just be, hey, you've still got this Miles Morales character, you can go back to it anytime you want. Yeah, it doesn't feel like that's actually addressing what the person's saying, and it feels like it definitely would not be accepted as an answer if it were switched around.
Yeah. And yes, it was. I think it's Joe Russo. He seems to I don't want to say that's a bad take because him and his brother both wrote it, but like, he has a bad take about AI that I saw the other day.
I don't know.
Not touching that.
Okay, question 5, Dane. Come on.
I bet AI will be an example actually where we again
running out of time here, Dane.
Like the same group of people will ignore like the material effects of that, and just eat that slop up.
Well,
I don't know.
We looked at on Friday on stream. We looked at part of Pillar of Garbage's video on the Secret Invasion opening thing, and it's pretty nuanced topic. I think I don't. Yes,
I've heard good things about that video, but I haven't seen that one yet. Yeah.
I can't. I mean, Pillar of Garbage is fucking phenomenal. Really, like I can't believe I slept on him so long.
Not a fan. Check out their work.
And I was thinking a minute ago, like, we're talking about because they're people intentionally leading into something controversial that they know is going to cause a backlash, right? It's almost like we're not in a meritocracy; we're in like an outrage-tocracy or something. Where like that's the way that you get ahead is by just like leaning into some kind of outrageous, harmful shit.
It's taking the idea that the squeaky wheel gets the oil, but instead of being a squeaky wheel, you take the wheel off of yourself and you try to beat someone else to death with it and then blame them for it.
Yeah,
I don't understand the analogy.
Or drown them in oil would also be.
Yeah.
Who's being drowned in oil?
Yeah, I don't know. Just move on to the next question.
Oh, this is gonna be fun.
Idiot.
Okay, we're moving on now.
We're gonna have fun.
What's the difference between someone who is genuinely homophobic / bigoted and someone who simply doesn't understand or has different viewpoints on certain LGBTQ plus issues? And
those are the same thing.
I know. I was gonna be like nothing.
So they are the same thing, and there's nothing different about them. That is so close-minded. So yeah, the way that I'd answer this is ignorance and bigotry are not the same thing. We must not assume the worst of others. We got to actually listen to them and use at least a modicum of charity. It doesn't sound like they're going to. Apparently, if you aren't automatically in lockstep with them, you are bigoted. And I think that's just so close-minded and so ineffective when it would come to actually changing somebody's mind. I don't know. I'm sure you meant something about this question.
Yeah, I'm starting to kind of understand, though, what these guys are saying. And I think it's so shitty because they are of the thinking that, like, being homophobic and being bigoted is like an accidental thing, and I don't think that's how the rest of the world views it. So
fair enough.
It's like I don't even know. But earlier in the stream, they're saying like, oh, they probably don't even know that there's such thing as a straight trans people or cis. And I was like, well, no, most people don't know that. Like, so
Yeah,
are those people who are still like someone like my girlfriend who is very accepting of people and you know she actually has gay and trans friends, but she isn't aware of all this stuff because it's just not like a big priority for her to know all these things. And she's not bigoted, she's not homophobic, she's not any of those things. But according to them, it doesn't make a difference. She is.
Yeah. And that seems just, again, so bigoted. Like, I don't know what else to call it, but you're prejudging somebody for not having the exact same opinion as you. I don't know.
Dane is a bigot.
For sure. It seems like there is a pattern of behavior that adds up to that. I don't want to preconceive. I don't know why. I don't want to, do some mind reading on him. No. But it appears to me that perhaps he is in a very dark place. And I hope, he can find some light. I hope he gets out of that soon. Yeah. I wish the best for him.
So, if I can steel man their question a little bit.
Please steel man it for the first time.
Like, because if they don't have the language framing to frame it in the way that we're going to see it. And, so, okay, what they're trying to say, if I'm being charitable as fuck, and I probably shouldn't.
Please be charitable as fuck.
Please do.
I think they're saying, because like that debate I had with that T-Rev guy that taught me so much, like really opened my mind to how
I don't know T-Rev.
Like bigotry. They're thinking like aggressive, hateful homophobia and bigotry, right? Like they don't really think passive, kind of just almost like not neutral, but like a passive bigotry exists, and it does, because.
Yeah, I don't disagree that it does exist. It sounds like maybe you were thinking more like a big tent. Like I actually had the passive stuff locked into this too. Like someone could just be ignorant and not understand, and as opposed to being bigoted. Like to me, bigot would be, you actually have this, preconceived notion or, automatic dislike or distrust for the other side where, I don't know, where it could just be you're ignorant to, I used the wrong pronoun. I wasn't trying to like misgender you or whatever. I just didn't realize that was a thing. I think there is a difference between, someone who doesn't understand or hasn't been informed yet. So ignorance as opposed to bigotry, but they're saying it's the exact same thing. That seems really bad. His steel man of this, I don't understand why he's bringing T-Rev into this. I've never met this guy. I've seen his debate with Dane. I agree with him on some things. I thought he did pretty well, but Dane was just an ass to him the whole time. So I don't actually know if I agree with T-Rev's positions because I don't feel like he really let him get it out there. He kept talking over him and telling him he's wrong. That seems to be his tactic. But yeah, let's see how we're like T-Rev.
I wasn't hateful really ever in my life, but I definitely had some kind of passive, bigotry about various things for a long time. So, I think they're just seeing it as like the kind where like, people want to chase them down in the street and lynch them kind of bigotry.
That would be wrong. I don't think you thought only that extreme.
Kind of, but I think it goes deeper. Where like kind of what I was saying, where like they use this genuine word a lot, right? But they keep like focusing on the intent, where it's like
there it is again,
your mind, and it doesn't. So like it doesn't fucking matter. That's useless. Right. Like there's literally no way. Like all I can do is based on your actions. So if you're supporting shit, you could think you're an ally, right? Like fucking J.K. Rowling, Queen Turf, thinks that she'll fucking say that she supposedly has no problem with trans people.
Oh, she says she's a feminist too, and she, that's just not the case because.
I could be wrong, but that could either be like, hey guys, how are all these questions a trap? Or how are all these questions a trap? I'm not exactly sure how Lucifer meant that. I'm guessing probably the latter, but
well, if I took it on his pattern of behavior, that guy, I'm gonna assume he meant it in a negative way.
Yeah.
Do you hear that sound right now? Just listen. Shh, be quiet. That is all of the sound she's made on abortion rights being attacked.
Oh, you understand.
No,
apparently she's not a feminist because she doesn't agree with them on one issue.
Came at her about it, and she was just like, I saw the excuses she was making for not having addressed it. So,
nice. Yeah, fantastic. But yeah, like I don't know. It's just one of those things where I always find that like really again, it's just this whole idea of like focusing on the intention or what's genuine. Like that. Okay, and this is where I think maybe even going back to like using the word community in a weird way. Whereas like a community is just a group of people. There's a shared thing there, right? Like this question at best, like this idea that like whether or not is really what that is. It's a personal question, right? Like if I have
Oh,
a friend who displays
this is the first personal one.
like that's been a friend for a long time, and they display something to me that comes off as bigoted, right? That's where it would matter to me on whether or not I want to navigate, like how
Dane
bad
is
is
skeeving
this,
me out so bad
Like,
right now.
am I trying to educate this person? Am I trying to get to the stuff? Like, what? Like in your personal relationships,
Try to look
that
away from him.
matters. If I'm dealing with some random person on YouTube or Twitter or wherever, like I'm not gonna get to know you. I don't need to get to know you. I don't like. There's no this idea that like as if I could somehow tell what you're genuinely thinking is ridiculous. Like that only
I'm
applies.
not
if
asking you
it
to
makes
read my
sense
mind. I'm
in a
asking what
personal
you're
way.
thinking.
I guess if someone approached me with this question, I would go, okay, why did you bring this to my doorstep? Like,
Because
I didn't bring it to your doorstep,
no
you dipshit.
Yeah.
Like I didn't
First
bring it
off,
to their fucking doorstep.
we didn't even know either of you people before this, and
No.
it was definitely not brought to you or Dane.
No.
It was brought to Eric, who asked, yeah, okay, but you'd have to send me some questions ahead of time. Cool.
Yeah.
Here's some
He
questions.
asked.
What do you think? Yeah. Yeah, and it's weird that it
That's what
also took like a month for them to come back with this after it was like, okay, we're probably going to have a talk
Yes.
soon. This will be great. I think
Pathetic
you had
shit.
sent him another message saying, hey, still looking forward to that conversation. Maybe that was the impetus for this. I don't know.
why did you drag your dead rat on my doorstep? Like, okay,
Wait,
you
we
needed
put
to
a
tell
rat on
me you
his
have a
doorstep?
different viewpoint.
I think he's talking about
viewpoint on
Dane's hair.
LGBT issues. Great,
Mm.
cool. Why is this here? Like, why are you? What do you think you're accomplishing bringing this to me? Because I'm the one non-binary person you know. Like, okay, well,
Didn't even know you were non-binary.
Okay, so-
cool, I guess.
How am I supposed to know? He's a
from the
fucking
perspective of
avatar.
someone who does not have this lived experience.
didn't even know he existed.
Or identity of being non-binary. I've thought about it a bit. I've been like, am I because I don't care about like how masculine or like that stuff. But I think that's more of a position of privilege, honestly, if I'm honest with myself.
He's privileged.
But
Privileged.
so basically 90% of what I've learned about this stuff I've learned from Willow, and so there's been a lot of me asking questions over the course of 3 years.
More than 6 questions.
But that's okay. It's okay to
and
ask
I would
Willow.
say that anybody that's genuinely wanting to understand how to respect people and just like not offend anybody or hurt their feelings or just like be an ally or supportive, stop
And don't
having
speak.
so much fucking confidence in your fucking takes on these things.
Mm.
That's really what it boils
Yeah.
down
Too
to.
confident.
That's what it boils down
Yes.
to for me.
These aren't
Is I would
takes,
think,
they're
what is
questions.
this? You know what? Instead of thinking I know the answer, I'm going to, and thankfully Willow, and by the way,
Do you think you know the answer to any of these questions? Like, I had
Me?
no clue they were going to
Not
go
really.
anywhere on these. I was just interested to find out where they would go on this.
They were
Specifically,
conversation starters.
DJ. Yeah, but I still don't know, and I don't presume to know where DJ would have gone if he agrees with all of these takes. They're very interesting to me. I didn't think that these questions were to go in the places that Morgan and Willow took them to. But I guess they're accusing us of somewhat mind reading and assuming that we know where they're going to go. I have no clue. So this is all interesting to me.
Yeah, dickheads.
And now maybe
Willow's been a fucking saint for this. No queer person owes you this, right? Like, no queer person owes you to give you an education and shit. But like,
Here comes the
and by the way,
framing.
it's not like I was just
We're
like
not
every
owed
day,
it,
like,
and
here's
that's why you
today's
kept
question.
asking.
Oh yeah, no, it's not been much, but again, yeah, but again, I mean, it goes back to what I'm saying, right? Like that's something that makes sense on a personal level. You shouldn't be hitting up random people for this shit. Like if you happen to find people that can educate
Dane was
you,
the
like,
one who
again,
hit up these random
it's
people,
kind of like what I
not
said
us.
earlier. Where, like if you were trying to tell,
We had a
representation
previous
was good.
somewhat
Start people
contentious
talking about that.
relationship,
Go
but a
find people
relationship with
experience
DJ.
and start
Yeah.
talking about it. Find a
Randomly
variety.
for 5
And-
weeks.
and I
planning
think again,
something.
like the variety is important. I do think that like it's very easy. I think sometimes where people will find like they'll find like one creator that they really like that's queer or something like that, and then they like, and it's like you're kind of doing a tokenism in the sense of like, where it's like there seems to be a divide here, and you're siding with the one that seems to be on the standalone on this issue, where it's like, well, maybe you've fallen into like kind of tokenizing this person because
I think
you
this is
literally
for
only
the
have
last
the one
question,
person in
Willow.
this group.
Come on, give it the time.
No, apparently we've tokenized DJ Eric by asking Eric
Yeah.
these questions. Sorry for tokenizing you. I thought it was going to be a conversation, but
That would be bad.
mm,
That's bad.
yes, we might actually understand each other, and it might humanize. I don't know. That would just be the worst.
Crazy.
Well, and
That you're, they're kind of siding with. And so
It's
like,
like I listen to Black Voices. I listen to Candace Owens all the time.
I was
Right,
just
yeah,
gonna say
right.
Blair White. You know, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I listen to trans people. I listen to Blair White. Like,
I
You
listen
should
to
never
Dave
listen
Rubin.
to
I don't know,
either.
he's a gay guy.
yeah, and it's I don't know. So it's yeah, it's very
One of my favorite Schadenfreude clips is he is in an interview with Glenn Beck, and this is when him and his husband were adopting a kid, and like Glenn Beck is very politely telling him to go fuck himself, and he is very politely taking it. And it's just like,
How is
but
that
you
a
can see in his
Schadenfreude?
face that he wants to be literally anywhere else on the planet, and that like everyone he works with, it would not, if he was bleeding out after getting stabbed, they would go, well, you shouldn't have been gay.
Well, I mean, and that's not even the only time it's happened.
It's just sad that he
Shapiro
takes
and
pleasure
just
in
like
hearing
the-
that
what was
story
the
about
wedding,
that
the
other
gay
person that he
marriage
doesn't
thing.
like.
Wedding, yep.
Yeah.
You know, I don't remember what
yeah.
Shapiro said exactly, but it was essentially the same kind of vibe. Which is
I'll
like,
never go to your wedding, I think, or something like that. Yeah,
Something
it
to
was,
that effect. Yeah, it was just like,
Yeah, I heard that.
and
one
it goes
from
back to
Shapiro. I
like
thought that was
the
pretty
whole
disgusting.
genuinely thing. Like,
It's a tough stance
I
to
don't need to know if
respect.
someone is
Yeah, it's
genuinely
hard.
homophobic.
I
Like,
just
need to
don't-
guess. Often they'll
I don't
just
fall into
tell
that
you.
kind of line of thinking. My religion, which I don't really have religion anymore, but I have a hard time with like not accepting all people.
For sure.
And love for me,
me
for me,
too.
love is love. So
Yeah,
somebody
I
getting
don't.
married, I don't care who they're fucking marrying as long as it's not a child.
Yeah, and it's kind of an honor to be invited to someone's wedding. It seems
Oh
like a
my
big
God,
fuck
huge,
you to
huge.
say like, not only would I not show up, but I want to make sure that everybody knows that I would never show up because I don't
Yeah.
respect this union.
And then on top
That's
of it,
fucked.
be like, but we're still very good friends and we're cool.
Yeah,
Like, no,
that's
dude,
really fucked.
no.
No, I don't think you do respect me. Yeah, and neither of us are for that. That really
No,
sucks.
It was
I don't know.
stupid.
Especially when they're in that sort of position of
Well,
privilege, like
it's-
they will. I have experienced that secondhand at work, where I have had I have a coworker who's native, and I have had white coworkers go to him
How?
and like ask if certain phrases or slurs are okay to say, and he's like, one,
Jesus.
no, two, why are you asking me at work?
right,
Or like being in a weird position where the person asking this is a person in authority, and it's like,
oh my God.
well, and again,
That's so-
I've asked Willow similar things, about certain things, and it's like, but not because like this is my non-binary friend, but because Willow is a very fucking knowledgeable person, and like,
And I mean, if it's your friend and you're asking questions, that definitely seems different than like a boss asking like a underling, like, "Hey, what slurs are okay if I call or if I say them around you?" That
Yeah,
that
that'd
seems
be
a little
wildly
weird. Like,
inappropriate.
yeah, like that doesn't belong in the workplace where it doesn't sound like Dane is Willow's boss. It sounds like
No.
they're just shooting the shit, having a conversation, which is what we were trying to do with DJ Eric. So I
Yeah,
hope
well,
this doesn't come off like we were.
apparently, yeah, I'm DJ's boss now.
Well, you are based.
And again, the framing of these fucking dicks, like, it's not like I was harassing DJ online for this shit. It's not. I'm
No,
not
not
his
at all.
boss. We're literally all people on a platform where this is what we fucking do, is talk about all this shit. So
Yeah.
I actually fucking said, got together with you and then got together with DJ and said, let's do something good. Let's do something positive. Like,
Yeah,
and ask these questions.
include him
and-
in the circle, not
Yeah.
have these two exclusionary circles. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
not
seemed like quite
not have
admirable.
Dane
I
and
thought it was
two of
cool.
his- not have Dane and two of his asshole friends rip the questions apart, trying to look at them from an what's that called when you called when somebody like frames something a particular way, then shows it to you?
So it would be like it definitely would be an unfair framing, but basically the loading the concept. There's a couple different
term for it.
for sure.
I know
it
it.
would be a bad faith way of going into it, but there's definitely quite a few ways you could kind of frame a conversation to get the outcome that you're looking for. I didn't see that in these questions, but I definitely see that in the way that they're responding to them.
I trust
And-
their empathy and their understanding of these things.
And
Right,
you
but
were
that
coming from a
context, that makes
perspective,
sense.
is
Yeah,
it
like-
okay to say insert slur here?
Right? Yeah, that's that.
It'd
You
be
weren't
horrible
doing
if a
that,
boss
right?
said
You weren't
that.
asking for a slur
Yeah.
pass.
I mean, it was a pretty rough first couple of weeks of the friendship. I'll say that.
But like, yeah, like I don't know. Yeah, it's really weird. Like, again, like I feel like you would know if it's a context where it's like there are spaces. Okay, there are spaces I remember if I felt like I needed an opinion on that or something, like I could ask probably. Okay, like if I was doing a video, like there's probably some creator spaces that I could ask in for something like that. Like, and again, so it's like but like that's a space that's made for that. Like and that's kind of what it comes down to. Like it's like a friends that makes sense a little bit. You obviously could overdo it. Like someone could overdo it or whatever
Oh, you
else.
could.
Like I don't know. It's kind of like, again, there has to be some sort of connection where it makes sense that you'd be asking these questions. The only time it really makes sense if you don't know them is like someone who specifically is making a video, or they're like someone who specifically is like their job, like they're kind of taking on the task of educating.
Right.
Then like in that context, it might make sense. But like, yeah, like for the most part, like it's not. Yeah, and honestly, like again, Lucifer with a great comment about like the friends can have different opinions, and I have some shit like a family is family, you know, bullshit like that. As if you're just supposed to. It's such a, actually it really does sum up like the centrism stuff like really well again, because it does kind of come back to this idea of like not having conflict, as if conflict would be a bad thing. You're not allowed to disagree and actually bother you.
So I don't know how you read that into these questions that you've asked, and this question in particular. I don't know. I think you're looking for a certain amount of conflict. Like you're not looking for a battle, and it's like each side shouting each other down. But clearly, there's kind of two different camps here. Like we're not all the same, but we want to understand. So I don't know. A certain amount of conflict is kind of expected, but hopefully it's civilized. It's a conversational conflict. It's not like what we've previously had with these guys. I don't know. I think that's a weird way of framing it, that centrism is about no conflict. Like, I guess I've heard that with the whole fence setting and everything, where it's like, I don't know. I mean, both sides have a point. I don't know. I think that there is more to this, where you're actually looking at each individual side and saying, I don't know that I want to be on either of these teams, but I see on this side, I line up this way. On this issue, I line up this way. That's how I've seen centrism, not just
that was my
I
understanding
refuse
of
to
it.
answer any of this. It's not like the Switzerland, I must remain neutral in this war. Like, it just means you haven't chosen a side. That doesn't mean that on each individual issue you haven't chosen a side. I don't know. I don't like the framing of this. I don't agree with his definition of a centrist.
They're
Well,
okay with you not having.
That's why I'm a basist. No, that's right. That's why I'm a basist, because I have my own fucking opinions on things. I don't want to be pigeonholed into any group.
And I just accidentally misgendered. I don't agree with their definition of centrism.
Yes.
The same opinion. They're just not okay with you actually being upset about it or vocalizing it.
Right.
That's not true.
They don't want
That's
to
why we wanted
deal
to have a
with that.
conversation.
Well, we'll see how that goes next weekend. I have a story for afterwards, but that just reminds me of a thing I have to do next weekend.
Yeah,
So
I hope you
really
go
excited
fuck yourself.
Two things more I want to say about this one. And so, okay, so they're kind of related, but
I'm gonna step away for like 3 seconds. Keep going.
Sure. So going back to the effect versus intention thing, like, and that's something that like I've kind of intuitively known for a long time, Willow, but like it's another thing that I've learned, just in our many conversations about these types of things generally, like of just how to, respect people's experience and perspective, right? Harm reduction, those types. So like, yeah, intent matters to you, but mainly
matters to the law. It matters to a lot of things, but does it matter to you?
I hate
to you.
Yeah, I hate this.
Right? Like effect is what matters outside of you. And if your focus is just intention, and this is like, Dave Chappelle and his jokes, like, quote jokes.
Okay. Now that is the thing that I'm taking the most offense to in this whole thing, to use the quotation marks around jokes. There were some great jokes in that special, and he is an asshole. Earlier, Dane specifically, not Chappelle. Chappelle is awesome.
Correct.
Yeah, Dane previously said he thought the whole thing was funny. He was laughing at all the jokes up until the trans point. So for him to now question, were these even jokes? Are there even jokes in there? It's super disingenuous, and it actually goes against what he was saying earlier. Perhaps he means just the trans things. Well, if he turned it off as soon as he heard them, how does he know how they end? How does he know what he actually included in a joke? Instead, it seems like, again, like he normally does, he only sees clips and then forms an opinion based off of a very limited set of information. But yeah, okay, let's hear the rest of his Chappelle criticism.
About trans people and stuff, and it's like, he said, well, I don't dislike trans people, or whatever. Like, okay, I don't believe that, but I mean, let's say somebody does really not have any harmful intentions. It's harm by not listening whenever people say that's actually fucking having a harmful effect, right? That plays into a harmful. So like, stop thinking about
Okay. If every time somebody says it's harmful, you must listen to them and do what they say. Dane, it's very harmful that you are unwilling to talk to people. You really should, open yourself up to conversation. DJ, it's very harmful that you went ahead and leaked these DM questions for a conversation to your friend for him to then go ahead and mock us. It really does seem like there's a lot of harm that you've perpetuated into this world, into these two communities, into the internet. You should do better. You should actually have conversations in the future. If that's what it takes to make you guys actually understand that, hey, small price to pay.
If we were lesser people and as ignorant and bigoted as they thought, we would take this and be like, all right, fuck these guys, and jump on board with the hate groups and just jump. But we're not like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, if anything, man, if you're treating other people the way that you're treating myself and Gray, then you're going to push those people to be bigoted. You're making more bigots. You're making racist. You're making people transphobic. Like, you're doing it. So like, maybe think it through, man. And I just want to say too about like the whole, I hate that these guys are like, oh, intent doesn't matter. Intent doesn't matter. Of course it fucking matters. Like, if I swung my fist and it landed on Dane's face and I broke his nose, all right. If I intended to break his nose, it's a lot different than if I didn't intend to break his nose. Like
say,
if I'm trying to punch you in the face
or something and accidentally touch him, like, it would be much different if whether you'd be charged for an assault, like what degree, all of that does matter. That's why I was saying it matters to the law as well.
If I drove my car into him.
And there is the concept of like I forget, but it's the mens rea. It basically is the intent. Like, is it criminal mind? What was in your mind when you did this? It does come into consideration. It isn't just how could you possibly interpret this, and then everybody else has to see that. There is something as you need to take a step back, and what was the actual intention here? It makes sense to actually look into that and not just assume the worst of everybody. That is one of the reasons why we're in this situation.
Right. It's like, what's their friend's name? That fucking limp dick CP guy.
It describes so many of them. CP.
What's his name? Carl. Charles Peterson.
I believe that's the one.
Okay.
Peterson.
Carly Peterson. He's got a joke. I think has a bunch of jokes. He's a comedian, and we've gone over it in the past. One of his jokes were about he wanted to fuck an 11-year-old girl, and the other joke involves referring to gay men as fags. So I don't think that his intent was to be to come across like a pedophile or to be bigoted towards gay men.
But if that's the way that you interpret it,
the effect, the crowd was like, "Ew, you fucking dick." But like, I don't think that dude's bigoted or racist or a pedophile. I just think he's a fucking bad comedian, and his intent was to tell a joke to get people to laugh about something. But according to Dane, this guy should be fucking. According to Dane, this guy is a homophobic bigot, and he should be ousted from their group, blocked, muted, and never spoken to again. But
and with all due fairness to CP, he is more of a free speech absolutist. I think he does have a different position on the issue than Dane does. He doesn't necessarily push this, but yes, according to Dane, he would have to also look at that situation that same way.
Yeah, and I'm speaking to the intent over whatever.
For sure, it matters. I think it would just be ridiculous to say that intent doesn't matter.
Yeah,
your intentions as much as the effect that you have on the world.
Another question of that is like, unless it's something like really over the top, everyone pretty much generally is going to assume that you didn't necessarily mean it, and the frustration is going to come when it gets pointed out, even if someone isn't like calm about it, that you buckle down and you get defensive. Like that's where people are going to get upset, right? Like it's not
the second part of this was that like, okay, so no, it's okay. I just wanted to like say it like this, that basically you're asking this question, and hopefully those two fucking idiots are watching this. I hope you guys are.
Oh, we are.
Hi guys.
We're watching, just as you're watching ours. Hope you're watching this, Dane.
Now, are you going
Willow
to
like that? He's like,
follow along with what was provided to you?
Yeah.
That's the fucking underlying thing here is like, people are telling you all the fucking time, and you don't listen, and then you instead do this type of thing. One of you I've had on my stream and explained a lot of shit to you, and
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah, he explained so much. It wasn't a conversation. It was a sitting down and talking to. But he gave
Yeah.
you that talking to real good. And, you should know better because the Dane hath spoken.
How
I
dare
brought
me?
up information, I brought up data, I brought up, and you're still doing this shit. So like clearly asking
Oh,
the
he brought up
question
data.
as if just you haven't heard the answer yet.
Wikipedia.
You're bad faith. You're disingenuous. You're a piece
Oh.
of shit. Okay.
Oh, so apparently you're bad faith, you're disingenuous, you're a piece of shit. I'm sorry, you are not the most bad faith motherfucker in the world, but at least you have 3 titles.
Pretty good title.
Yeah.
It's funny because that's exactly what my mother calls me.
Well, I mean, she does know you. I'm not saying that it's inaccurate, but Dane doesn't really know you. I feel like if he got to know you, maybe he could lay those accusations.
Then he could say it honestly.
Yeah.
That's how we can tell someone's not genuine is when your actions just stay the same. You don't nothing changes. Actually, one thing that
so being genuine is changing your opinion.
I first was kind of dealing with the family shit when I was going to therapy way back. One of the analogies the therapist used at the time was even if like someone was well intentioned and everything else, if every time you went to see them, somehow your toe got broken, every time you went to see them, eventually you're going to stop going there. It doesn't matter how much you like them, doesn't care for them, or how much eventually you're just going to stop because you have to. The problem is that when it's not like physical pain, we have a really hard time valuing the harm that's being done to us. But if it was literally, and I just really like that.
Somebody's been watching Jordan
Peterson. If your toe got
Peterson.
broken every single time you had to deal with this person,
you
would avoid them like the plague.
Finding it very hard to follow
never,
what they're talking
and,
about.
And,
I understand what they're
the
saying with the toe
too,
and hurting and everything, but who
I
is
really
doing
hate
that
this
and in what
narrative.
situation?
It gets played up, I think, extra hard with family or friends and stuff. But this idea that people are just willy-nilly cutting people off or not dealing with people. I'm not saying it never happens. Obviously, there's always extreme actions occasionally, but that's so rare. It's hard. Okay, my family, I probably would have dealt with some queerphobic stuff, but I had that all that shit blew up way before I even came out with other stuff. And it's that's not something that you want to have to do. It sucks. Basically cutting off all your connections kind of thing. It's not something you want to do.
Dane
no
got
one wants to
bored,
do that.
had to change the
it's not
question.
Even if they did it accidentally at first, you would quickly realize it's not fun. That's just not a thing. It's such a nonsense thing that gets really focused on as everyone, people can have disagreements nowadays or people just can't tolerate blah blah blah, and
that's funny because it's always put on the person who's being aggrieved, right? Or being harmed most by it.
Oh, him.
I know what.
Oh, him. Well, that explains how skeevy and manipulative these questions are phrased. You are the skeevy and manipulative one, sir. They fully know what they're doing and the topography of the topic. You are very topographic in your skeevy and manipulative questions. I don't know. I guess I don't understand, but it seems like Lucifer doesn't like you. So
I mean, I don't give a fuck what Lucifer thinks.
Well, you're in good company. Lucifer also doesn't like me. Something about my brain.
Lucifer only has an avatar, so Dane doesn't care what he thinks either.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
When I fell out with broad swaths of my family, it was over COVID, and it's I work in healthcare.
Oh, Jesus.
And so it's just they're telling me things that I'm I have friends who are having breakdowns at work and are just getting beat the fuck up, and it's just
that would be horrible to be in healthcare during that time.
This is happening in your
be very stressful.
I'm the bad guy for telling you that no, fucking Alex Jones, and not even people that are that extreme.
How are you related to Alex Jones
Carlson
now?
And all of those clowns? No, they're just lying to you.
Yeah.
Okay, question 6, Dane. Let's do this.
Let's get it going.
We can move on to the next one.
Let's do it.
About to hit 2.5 hours. It seems like it's flown by.
We are flying.
They're really high.
I haven't crashed.
It's almost like these
I don't
questions
myself,
would have been great for a conversation.
Yeah, I don't know, but
he said Dane is so fucking devoid. He had to steal my fucking questions to.
It seems like this would have been really good content, right? This might have led to some sort of conversation, even with just their side of it. This is 2.5 hours of content again. That's very interesting. But too bad this didn't happen for real. But even this provided content for both sides, which is great. They the audience still gets to see how they would answer these questions, how we would answer these questions. And I think it could be illuminating. So
I wish
guess
Eric was in with them, DJ, but
for sure, I would like to know his opinions on these. Maybe someday he'll make a response to this, and he doesn't have to actually talk to us, but it'd be cool if he did.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Dane would not allow it. Yep.
You've seen
Woo,
it.
party.
We've got one more.
Okay, final question.
One more.
It all comes down to
and
this.
Maybe this is one where it turns around and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
this is no, it's not.
Could
That'd
be.
be interesting.
Oh.
It's gonna stick
Um,
landing, huh?
oh, I'm not
Almost
actually
gave him
showing
some
it on the
credit for
screen.
positivity
Okay.
there.
What steps can both the straight and LGBTQ
Oh, Jesus
communities see question one take to foster open dialogue and bridge the gap of understanding, even when there are moments of insensitivity or ignorance?
This feels like they just combined the last question with the first one.
yeah.
This
like,
is some
Kind
tone.
of. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't all have to be asked. It was kind of, hey, do any of these appeal to you? We could use this as a starting point. I actually thought he'd come back to you and say none of those, so then we'd have to kind of come up with some more questions. But maybe he would actually provide some input. But I don't know. I think it's a really good question. But
I think I sent 6 in total.
yeah,
And I made a couple of them overlap a little bit because I thought maybe some of them would be like, all right, well, we don't really need that, you know?
for sure.
But-
And I think the way that I would answer this was saying, let's withhold judgment at first, actually listen to the other side, and then look for some common ground. It doesn't seem like it would have to be that hard. It could be as simple as that to answer this. But I'm sure they're going to answer this really good faith.
Policing shit too, right? Like, what are you gonna do when I'm being ignorant or insensitive?
I'm going to
Like,
not assume the worst
I
of
don't know.
you.
Tell you to fuck yourself. Like,
We-
you just
we,
chill.
I feel like it's done all the time. Like, it's the thing is the way that these people
These people.
receive the information. It's like it goes back to like that T-Rev thing and like the
T-Rev
racism
again.
is evil. And it's like, well, hold on, man. Like, I think there's a difference
Oh,
between
shit.
like
I think it's bad. I don't know if I believe in the concept of evil. I'm not sure about you as well, but I don't know. Evil seems like it's a very loaded phrase. I know, I've never called this racism evil, but what about you? You think racism is evil, or is it just a bad thing?
I mean, evil. When people say they think racism is evil, I don't think that they're saying they think that there's a demon up your ass and Satan is puppeteering you to be a bigot. I think they mean it's really bad and it's the worst possible thing you could think of.
Yeah,
That's what I think people mean by evil.
for sure. And I don't think these guys think it's a good thing. Otherwise, I don't think they would
No.
use it as like an insult and a way to shut down conversation. I think they know that it has this cachet, this weight to it, and it's not a positive cachet. This question it calls for embiggening. There we go, slightly embiggened.
there's a big difference between holding some ignorant biases and not, and then just like going around calling people the N-word and wanting to lynch black people or some shit, right? Like there's
Does seem like there's a difference,
There's a big
yeah.
difference there. And if you don't have some measure, like neither one is good, right?
Right.
But there's something you can do about the first one, and that's going to take listening.
Feels like there's something you can do about the second one, too.
Take honesty, accountability, and yes, of course, there's going to be people from every marginalized group who are just not going to want to have anything to do with you, even if it's just like it's just an ignorant, mistake. But that is their right, just like it is with anybody else out of this context. If somebody decides I don't like this person and what they said for whatever reason, that's their right.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Like, what I love about that is like, what do you mean by open dialogue? Like, if you do something really bigoted and I tell you, and I'm like, well, fuck you.
That's
Guess
the
what?
real trap in
That
that
was
open
dialogue.
dialogue.
What are you gonna do
Yeah.
now with that? Like,
If you said
again, so,
something
like,
ignorant
could-
and he
could
says
turn
"fuck
around
you,"
and then
that's the dialogue.
That's the dialogue. You should
That's like the
accept that-
opposite of dialogue.
No. That is the dialogue. You want actual back and forth and like exploration. No, the dialogue is fuck you. I'm sorry. The dialogue has been had.
take
Fuck
actions
you.
and try to show that you've learned, right? Like, but that, like, the dialogue's already there. It already exists. Even if they're really like supposedly mean to you, like the dialogue exists already. Like it's already there. You already, like, there's information out there. It's not like this is some sort of like forbidden knowledge. I mean, some people are trying to make it forbidden, I guess. But
Yeah,
like
in Florida, it's forbidden knowledge.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
becoming here. Yeah, yikes.
But like
Um,
people,
they
like
dig in
again, like there
Florida.
are creators out there. There are people like there's so many resources. This idea that like
Which
you
ones?
couldn't figure out what you did, even if that specific person that you offended doesn't give you that. Like
And-
it's there. Like,
And again, like last
Who did
week,
I offend?
assuming that if you did have pointed out to you, would you even give a shit? Would you even listen? Or
Yes.
going back to what I said a minute ago,
That's
too,
why
like,
these questions were brought
stop
to you.
valuing
Well,
your own
to
opinion
Eric.
on these things so fucking much.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how you end up being wrong, and that's how you end up being a bigot.
That's good advice.
yeah,
Dane.
yeah,
We should
I
take it.
actually I was just about to comment. I just saw Lucifer said, but yeah, I completely. I was gonna just say, like, the bridge the gap of understanding. It's like, are you like again? They're not running this in a way of
Yes, because you can't be insensitive or bigoted if you're part of the LGBTQ plus community.
how is
Apparently,
this
it's just not
self-implying-
impossible.
How
Good
is it
question.
self-implying that the LGBT people are ignorant or insensitive? Aren't I saying that the cis heteronormative people, when they're being insensitive or ignorant? So
Yeah, but it's not like there
they're
aren't
ignorant.
moments of insensitivity on both sides. It's not just a one-way
There is.
thing. But I don't think you're implying stealthily that they are, and as such, you're casting them down. It's like, hey, there might be insensitivity or ignorance on either side. How could we possibly come to some understanding and get past that and actually come to, some sort of shared mutual humanity? I don't know. It doesn't seem like they're taking this in the faith that it was actually offered. It feels like they're putting a lot into it.
If I'm stealth implying that LGBT plus, I guess they all dropped the Q. Is the Q not there anymore? Am I wrong to include the Q?
Sometimes, it's like the IAAP or whatever. It's there sometimes. Sometimes it's not.
But so it's also kind of stealth implying that the LGBT plus people are being ignorant or insensitive. What steps can we both, the straight and LGBTQ plus community? So how the fuck am I stealth implying? Because if I'm stealth implying the LGBTQ community, I'm also stealth implying, and it's not stealth. It's not stealth. I'm saying we're all kind of
No
insensitive
part of
and
that seems
ignorant sometimes.
stealthy to me. Like, it feels like it's just being
pretty
very
right there up
paranoid.
front.
And like, the most uncharitable way of interpreting this is how it seems to me.
owning of like we don't understand, which at least some other questions you could maybe take away. This is again, it's like, see, there's just a gap. We just don't understand each
you
other.
gays
It's
just
like,
don't understand us straights,
It's like, no, I
Right.
completely understand you.
When you're saying that I don't want you to exist, or that I think that it is evil, I don't know. That seems to be a misunderstanding of what I think. I don't think you do understand, and I think that's why we could have actually come together and talked. But yeah, a bridge too far.
It's like the
too much.
reverse racism thing, right? Like
It's
it's like,
exactly.
Jesus,
Is it
Just like a phrase that nobody has said
it's like,
here.
yeah, okay, well, you said, you're talking about how straight people don't understand. That's bigoted. It's so disingenuous.
Not what I'm saying.
I
I mean, I think Dane's a bigot, but that's not what I was saying in this question for Eric.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Although even when there are moments, of
Dane's definitely a
sensitivity
bigot.
and ignorance, like,
It's just like, well, why? It's just weaponized one side, right? Because it's like if
Both.
if they're asking
No, it's
me
weaponized to one
something
side by
and
saying both.
it's insensitive or ignorance, then like it's a knowledge issue, where because they have the position of power, like obviously I should probably know that. So there's this implication that like I should know better, but also I have to be responsible for their ignorance.
Well,
right.
yeah,
Well, that's the thing too. Like there's like
I understand
obviously
that.
like talking in private with Dane or whatever, like with a friend or something, or like my
It's
wife,
different,
whatever.
yeah.
Like I would not like. Okay, I haven't done a lot of videos talking about Crystal because I don't think I'm really knowledgeable. I think I'm pretty new to this stuff. I learned a ton of shit from other creators like Airnock or like whatever. Like there's a lot of people I feel like I am learning tons of shit from.
Mhm.
And like so I don't
Okay.
like yeah, I'm gonna be more knowledgeable than someone who has like doesn't have that lived experience or something, but like I don't feel like super knowledgeable. I know I probably am more than I think I am, kind of thing. But it's
Well, that's
still
funny
like
because he's been Dane's
like,
resource for the last 3 years.
There are a
for
lot of
this
trans
shit.
people who probably are not.
So that must mean that Dane's very
knowledgeable
uninformed on
politically.
the
In fact,
situation.
But one of the
Even
things
more
I want to talk about more is like, okay, a
Mm.
lot of disabled people are super not knowledgeable. Like it's super baked
Right.
in, like ableism. They're not politically knowledgeable, and that can be a big problem because without that knowledge, it can trap you in a lot of ways. And
Oh,
but
for
like at the
sure.
same time,
And the system is
individually-
already sort of designed to make it hard for you to access it. So even if you want to be
Right.
politically informed and politically active, it's difficult. So there's a huge barrier to entry that discourages people.
Well,
Yeah.
and so like, okay, yeah, kind of to what you were saying a second ago, Willow, that like, it's almost like they want permission to never be held accountable for even if accidentally seen. It's like this.
Is that what
I
you
have
meant by this? Were you
absolutely
looking
said-
for a
I was looking for a
racism-free
pass.
card? Yeah. Well, maybe one day we'll get that get out of racism free pass. That's got to be really, really valuable on the black market.
Yeah.
One day, maybe we'll get it. I know Dane has been given the Iron Man pass, if you will. But one day we will get a racism pass. It is our life's goal now.
Yeah.
I don't know how we saw through this.
I'm going to try to start with the LGBTQ plus pass.
For sure. Work your way
just
up.
add on. Yeah.
Yeah. Evolve it.
Yeah.
Insensitive or ignorant shit to both Willow and Morgan.
Did you say insensitive shit?
I'm not even aware of that. They just were like,
I've never even fucking heard of it.
But they're my friends.
Probably will now.
We trust each other's. You want to talk about intentions? Like that's really the way that intentions matter is by like how.
Oh, I thought
it's a pattern of behavior, right?
Yeah, he said they don't.
Exactly.
Those. If I said those same things just to a random Discord server full of queer people and they fucking kicked me out, that's their prerogative, man. I fucked up. Like I shouldn't have,
Is that what we were doing?
Too much without knowing what I was talking about.
I do want to roll back on something quick that Willow mentioned about just sort of being informed on queer issues. I think there's a thing I've noticed, at least with me and a lot of other queer folks, is you sort of end up becoming maybe not an expert, but more informed than someone normally would be about their own identity, just because the medicalization of it, and B, the attacks on it, that like you have to be your own advocate in a lot of ways. And in our system, the way you do that is knowing legal things and insurance things and reading how certain medicine works and what the side effects are and how it interacts with stuff, that like the only way you can do it is by being your own advocate.
I think everyone's got to be there.
It's very true. Very true.
To touch on something you mentioned in the first question about like society is built for cishet people, specifically cishet men, and they've never had to be an advocate for their own existence in that way or even close to that way.
I think that
he forgot to mention race in there too, because cishet men isn't just white men, so it feels like he's actually being exclusionary there with who he said that society is being built for. I had previously heard it wasn't built for all men. It was a particular kind. So I don't know. That seems a little bigoted of him. Sorry, of them.
That's a great point. Like even mentioning the disability stuff. Like I think it's the disabilities that are able to be only viewed via the medical model, where you could just follow along with the doctor and not necessarily have like they're more straightforward, so to speak.
Right.
There's a good chance that you may not be as politically informed. You're not pushed to it. But like I think there are certain disabilities that are more prone to, right? If you have a chronic fatigue or chronic pain or some of these things that are harder to diagnose, you've been put through the grinder. Yeah. So like you know what it's like. You've had to be an advocate for yourself. And so I think like I think that's very true. Like so like being trans, like if you're getting any sort of medical support, like even like just like HRT stuff, like it wasn't too bad where I am to get started, but like even that, like there's some weird aspects to it of like of how it's medicalized and how the system operates.
So
even when it's easy, like
my insurance is really good about some stuff, but then not others. Like I was looking into getting
isn't that how every insurance is? It really sucks.
And
I mean, everything I want is
so like getting HRT was just informed consent.
I was trying to get my penis short.
If I wanted,
they wouldn't do it.
They don't like to do that surgery. It's very rare. You do have to find a specialist for it too.
Yeah, it's gonna take like 4 inches off.
Yeah, the surgeries I'm looking into, they're not quite as glamorous as that, but they're very expensive. I haven't done them yet, and it would actually help me live longer. And I probably should do them. But the insurance is a bitch, and I've had to be an advocate for myself and try and get coverage. And it seems like they're arguing for it, against covering me. It doesn't seem like that's exclusive to that community. I think it is definitely a problem with the current system that we have. So I don't know. It just feels like that's very myopic and not kind of looking at like, oh, everyone has this. Everyone should be their own advocate because this system does seem to be kind of rigged against you. At least when it comes to medical care. Sorry.
Affirming surgery down below, I would have to get a dysphoria diagnosis.
Yeah.
But they won't cover this other range of stuff that is cosmetic. And
Yeah,
it's
the
well,
dysphoria thing is really frustrating. How
Mhm.
again, yeah, just the medicalization of the whole thing, or it's like, hey, this is a real thing. However, the way this is framed and kind of put through the medical model is really troubling.
weird. And then you get to things like, I don't really have. I mean, I'm gender fluid. I don't really have dysphoria most of the time. And even when I do, like, I know people who are, you know, binary, trans, or non-binary who have it way worse than I do on a good day. I don't have dysphoria, so I wanted to do something down there. Oh, well, I can't because I won't. Well, I could lie and get that diagnosis.
This is
I know people who have had to
interesting.
do that.
Yeah,
Yep.
that sounds
Yeah,
that sounds terrible.
Yeah, I would have thought, you know, like if you did want to actually, so it sounds like they're talking about like bottom surgery. Like,
Yeah.
if you're not actually feeling dysphoric, why would you get the bottom surgery? I don't know. So this seems like deeply personal stuff. I wouldn't expect them
does,
to
yeah.
like necessarily like explore this with, you know, us, some strangers
No,
or anything like that. And that's
Morgan's
why your
business.
questions didn't go into that necessarily. But like all of this is interesting. I haven't necessarily heard that. I would have assumed, you know, you would be feeling very dysphoric if you thought of, you know, changing your body in such a drastic way.
Sure.
But that's kind of interesting to me to know that that's not the case.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, now you're lying to your doctors, and that's
Yeah.
not good for anybody.
Yeah, I mean that was a main thing for me, where like I kind of felt weird about some of the dysphoria stuff, because for me, like, it almost depends on how you define dysphoria.
Mhm.
Because for me, it was much more about a lack of like euphoria, or like I said, like it was
Right.
more. I was kind of disconnected from myself, and it wasn't like a big deal. It wasn't like a huge. Even my name, like I didn't hate my previous name. I don't have a problem with my previous name. But I feel really good with this name. Like again, it's a huge. Same with the pronouns. I don't necessarily hate like other pronouns, but like again, like one brings me joy, right? Like
Right.
like there's a big difference there, and it's like
This pronoun
and I
sparks
feel
joy.
I feel like a real like connection with it, as
Mhm.
opposed to nothing, right? Like
Right.
that's
Hmm.
I was
That's
gonna say, I was gonna
interesting.
make a bad joke.
Yeah.
Like, you know, how
Mhm.
dare you prioritize joy in your life? None of us are happy. Why do you get to be happy?
That seems like a really dark comment.
Well, and
Again,
then
it's
that
a joke.
sounds like
but-
Dane.
that's the thing is like I
Mhm.
know I have it like really good compared to a lot of people, and that's
We all do.
Same.
I don't know. I find that really sad. It's like that sucks. That like, yeah, fucking Lance Armstrong. Oh my god. Of all the people,
Of all
with the
right,
fucking
oh,
sports thing, like what a ridiculous. Like, yes, I love seeing like so many people are making jokes about like
everyone's
yeah,
like, "Oh, you are
the
the guy to
sports
talk about
fairness
this."
understander. You know.
Yeah, it's like I don't know, O.J. Simpson having opinions on murder trials or something. Like,
I'd be kind of interested in his opinion
you
on
don't
murder
get to
trial.
talk about that
Like
anymore.
being on the other side of it, he
Give
might have
me
some
a bunch
insight.
of
You know,
money, and
his
I want to
lived
have-
position.
I want to do like sports
lived experience.
commentating for trials and have OJ as like the color commentator. You know, for you get your play-by-play guy, and then you got the color commentator. I want OJ for that job.
He's a
For peak
person
cringe.
person
For
of
I
color
want that
commentator.
cringe to maximum.
Yeah.
God.
Christ, that's really dumb. But I mean, that's just exactly the same kind of thing, right? Like, as what we're talking about.
Is it?
I'm just asking questions. you know?
Also, yeah, I'm just
So I don't know that necessarily is the same thing. But Lance does seem like he would be an expert on, you know, substances that do, sports and substances that could give you a performance enhancement. What legal ones you could take. I don't know. It seems like this might actually be some place where he could actually weigh in. A little bit more than just he murdered someone sometime, so he should be a color commentator on all trials. I don't know. This seems like it is a little bit more apropos, but I don't know. He definitely knows about certain enhancing substances, and it would seem like, you know, testosterone would definitely be one of those. It kind of makes you wonder.
asking questions. I have a question, Lance. I know you're a big fan of the show, Mr. Armstrong. Who the fuck asked you?
Mhm.
This guy.
Right, like
You're not
I
allowed
guess,
to.
again. It's as if like it's weird. It's so weird too, where it's like, why are you asking questions? Like again, like there's so many fucking sources of information for this stuff.
Mhm.
Like it's not hard.
Never
it's really
question,
not hard
just
to find it. This idea
listen.
that like
If there
I'm
was even
just asking, like yeah.
these are sports fans often that are saying this, and it's like, don't you guys fucking obsess over sports stats? Because show me the ones where the trans people are just like dominating sports.
Right there.
Uh,
they're not. No,
And
Yeah,
if you
nothing.
show those,
They're not.
Well,
then you're
yeah,
cherry
and I love
picking.
all the things too.
Yeah.
Like they're worried about like scholarships or money that women get, which you know is fucking pitiful. They don't
It's
never give a
nothing,
shit
yeah.
about them
Almost
getting
nothing.
nothing before. But now, it's super
What is he
concerning
saying?
now.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's just amazing.
But apparently you can't have an opinion on women's sports. You didn't care about it before, but now that women are being slighted, you can't actually say anything. I don't know. Wouldn't that just mean that you can never have a position on anything you haven't had a prior position on? Like, I
So
don't
like
know.
if I didn't have a
don't
position
understand.
on if I didn't have a position on trans people and them existing, I
Mhm.
can't advocate for them existing.
No, according to their logic, that would be consistent. You should not be able to have a position on that either, which to me sounds very, I don't know,
Stupid.
problematic. Yeah, I could go with that.
Or
God.
or like they'll get upset because they'll read a story that says like a trans person won their high school wrestling meet. Well, it's a trans boy who was forced to wrestle cis girls.
Right? Yeah.
It's just
the-
like,
Wow,
oh yeah,
on
so the
testosterone.
trans boy won. Okay, well yeah, that's
I love the transphobes getting the like they think like they have the gender wrong completely, where they're like, oh, this is actually this. It's like, no, that's not.
no.
God.
And then
I
I
just-
know
Could that not
This
be
last week
ignorance
there,
and not
there's,
actually
I
malice?
don't know.
trans man boxer who's been doing pretty well in their weight class, and it's just like
I'm sure
they don't
they
know
are.
what the fuck to do about that. Like,
What do you mean?
And
What to
it's
do about
frustrating because
that?
again, like, and the thing is a lot of the not only is it obviously just fucks over trans people, but like, you know, we already see this, like, it hits other people. Like a lot of
Yep.
this shit ends up hitting a lot of women.
oh
Like,
yeah,
right? And it's like, but the worst part is like they don't actually give a shit because like again that works within like
their
the
system. Yeah,
It's like it's like the
It hits a lot of women. I think that's the point, especially when it comes to, like people talking about like, trans women in like MMA and stuff. It is women getting hit by essentially a biological male. And I could see people having issues with that. There is a reason why we don't usually have women versus men in a lot of combat sports. Every once in a while you get an exhibition match and it usually doesn't go well. There's a reason why it's not a standard, but okay. It's just bigotry, I guess.
like collateral damage is just more people that you don't give a shit about. So
right. It's if in their minds, if these like trans bathroom bills affect women who present more mask, that's a feature, not a bug.
yeah, exactly. It's
I
really
didn't follow
fascinating
that.
actually seeing that like the history of like
Apparently
where
it's
like,
oppression to
the
not
fact
pass.
that we even have the gender norm in the bathrooms was literally started because of a whole like misogyny basically. Like
Right,
it's
yeah.
too scary for women in the world, so like we gotta fucking give them their own little space and like
Well, it's the same reason we have the divide in sports.
That's
is that
very
like, that these women might beat men in
ignorant.
sports? We need to like put them in a separate silo.
Yeah, I mean, Neil deGrasse Tyson actually fucking owned Ben Shapiro in one clip that I
That's
saw.
such that's
And
such
he's
a
like,
good.
Notice how he said clip. There was one
Yeah.
clip that he saw. He doesn't watch the actual thing. He doesn't know the context. But that clip, it gives him all the context he needs.
where he just
interview.
basically- he said, yeah, no, you're right. Maybe if we're gonna concern ourselves with like people who are just like way more prone to dominate in the sports, we need to be basing it on like, what did he say, like just just general. I mean, they do it with boxing, right? Like there are boxers that are bigger, and you got the heavyweight and the lightweight or whatever the fuck, and it's like you're
right. Like, there's a million ways you could divide a sport.
It doesn't need to be sexed. It
Yeah, but
doesn't
that's
need to
not
be
how we're
divided by
doing
sex or
it. So
gender.
that's
Yeah, perhaps they would like to volunteer. I don't know. Like it just seems weird. Like, okay, could there be a reason why we don't just have weight class, and that's the only thing that just separates it? So, a woman of the same weight would fight a man of the same weight, and it would be exactly the same.
Sure.
I don't know. It seems like there might be a reason why that's not going on right now.
all sorts of other metrics. And as Dane mentioned earlier, sports nerds fucking love metrics.
yeah, it'd be new ones
Okay.
you guys get to study.
Stats.
I mean,
don't know.
they like to make fun of D&D nerds, but like I see
They
the
do?
stuff you're looking at for fantasy football.
It
I
is.
see what you're
Like,
looking at.
I have seen it. I want to beat
Seems
those
like some
guys
mind
up.
reading.
Like really, I just make.
I
Like,
want to
got a
bully
chip on
them.
his
I want
shoulder,
to give
it's
them a
clear.
bully.
I wanted to show something real quick, which is randomly. I
Oh,
was closing out all
quick,
these images
random.
that I'd had open of these questions, and these last two that were open. So I was like, which one is the last one? And then, just real quick here. So this one,
Okay.
and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
is this kind of the same question?
This feels
Like,
like
very
a
similar
The
thing.
last one was literally just like it was like 1 and 5 combined a little bit or something. It's just,
Yeah,
it's
this
rewording.
is-
Kind of close.
same
That is
thing.
correct.
Which I love like the shared values and shit. It's like I don't know, we're fucking human.
Yeah.
Like Jesus,
Okay,
like,
Nobody
so there's
likes
one.
suffering. How
There's
about
one
that?
where love-
Yeah.
We don't disagree with that. There's humanity in both sides.
We're like we try to
Yeah, like
maximize
we all have facial hair.
a good life and minimize suffering.
Some of us has
do-
less than
How
others.
about we all do
You know?
that? Like, let's just not be assholes for just like 5 fucking seconds.
Yeah, you
It
guys should
would be
try
nice.
Um,
Yeah.
it. Like 2 hours of you guys not being assholes would have been nice.
how do we
instead of
how do we
this.
tell who's the genuine asshole? You know,
That's
Ah,
the
we'll
genuine
let the
asshole.
audience
How
decide.
do I operate if I don't know that someone is? I have to know someone's being genuine. Maybe once we get those must brain.
He
implants,
literally
we'll be able to
says
have a
you have-
reader,
he
like
has
a
to
little
know.
meter that's like they're not. being
He's like,
genuine.
you have to fucking prove to me why my friends and I shouldn't have her. Like you have
Yeah.
to know. Like
Exactly. It's a
He's so
different
phony.
standard. But even then, I don't think you have to know, but perhaps offer the charity to the other side that, perhaps they are coming in good faith, not just
Yeah.
assume they're not. I don't know. You don't have to know, but it would be good to model the behavior that you would like. If I could not just assume that you're here in bad faith and that you are, not going to have a dialogue, that would be wrong. I would come in there hoping that we actually could. And, I'd hope that you did the same. But it's not what happened here.
Anyone or something? I don't know.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
I mean, and then they'll just explode. But also, they were just going to explode anyways.
We
They're
will
gonna
explode.
Yeah, but at least you'll know that person was genuine first. So
We will genuinely explode.
Exploding.
The AI would probably generate better questions. Well, then again, I don't know. It probably has a lot
AI would have been
of
smarter than
data
us.
from their bullshit channels and stuff. So
Oh,
maybe they
sure.
would just have those. Yeah, that's true.
So I want to comment on Lucifer's transphobia, misogyny are besties for a second, because I have a saying about that. Bigotry loves company.
Is that why they're streaming
That's
together?
something- I
Yeah.
didn't fully understand this
Hmm.
until several months ago. Honestly, like when Bob organized chaos.
If you are
Today, me,
one,
Vince,
you are
that's
all.
when I got a few donations. Today.
What's this?
So this is a stream from the other night, just to kind of show that you do put your money where your mouth is. So this is a stream that happened even after they mocked your questions, your direct DMs to DJ Eric, where he he then decided to share them with Dane so that you could be mocked publicly on a much larger channel. But even after that, this occurred. These guys were doing so the Friends of Garrick, Trevor Project fundraiser. And yeah, this is what happened during it.
Thank you, guys.
Let's see.
$50 in total. Got another one just now.
Nice.
So
Nice.
yeah, Laron, Lucifer Writing, Joker 97, and Anonymous, and yeah,
Anonymous.
and it's $10 or more. You are entered into the raffle, which I'll announce some or all of the winners for that Friday.
Awesome.
And that, just to reiterate too, I cannot ship international. So if you are international outside of the continental U.S.
International shipping
and
sucks.
you want to, enter the raffle and you happen to win, you'll have to cover your shipping. So whatever that may be. But yeah. Also, BasedLife had asked if
Who's this guy?
can
This fancy fella.
donate anonymously through the kink I provided. I didn't provide. No, I'm just kidding. I know you.
You provide
kid out
plenty
of
of
mine.
content.
Yes, you can. And as I just said, those names are not people's real names. Well, I guess maybe one of them is, but yeah.
Okay.
So there you go.
That's good. Thank you guys so much for.
I
for
think he
donating. We do
recognized
appreciate
you. Perhaps
I'll have-
felt a
But
little
some of
ways
us
about
are.
what he,
Yeah, I'm privileged
previously
in
did
certain
to you.
ways. Everybody, there's every community has some sort of advantage over another group if they're marginalized, and you just have to realize it. Nobody's asking you to bow down and go, oh, I'm so privileged. I have no problems in my life. No, that's not what that means. It's not even close to what that means.
Mm-hmm.
It means you've never had a hate crime committed on you. It's like
Oh,
it's
that's what it
simply,
means.
Okay.
Okay, so-
I hate to laugh about it, but it
Alright,
really
well,
is. It's like
apparently we're privileged because a hate crime hasn't been committed against us.
I had one committed on me.
You
Yeah,
don't have the
I
privilege
actually
of worrying
have
about
too.
having an imaginary family because you were not exiled from yours and kicked out
Maybe
on the
that's his
street,
privilege for
so-
assuming we haven't had that.
Thank you, Patrick, for the $5.
You're welcome,
donation.
Dane.
Indeed.
Shit.
And yeah, that's the thing. Like
$5
donating
donation,
through our
Patrick.
link
That
is
is
$5
basically
I
the
ever
same as
spent.
just donating straight to the Trevor Project.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned, we don't get any of it. And also, once our fundraiser is like finished, and once the raffle has happened, you can always still just donate to the Trevor Project.
Yeah.
Indeed. And as such, we're actually going to go ahead and put the link in our description below. But yeah, please do feel free to donate to the Trevor Project. From everything that we looked into it, it looks like it is just trying to help prevent suicide with at-risk youth from the LGBT community, which that's a good thing. Nobody should do the most drastic of measures.
No.
That's not the way that you solve problems. So it seems like it's a really good cause.
I have teenage sons, and it would be devastating to me if something
For
like
sure.
that ever happened to them. And any kid who's suffering or is having problems, whether they're in the LGBT community or not,
Mhm.
I urge all of us to try to help them. And if anybody who's watching or watches this in the future and you want to follow that link,
Mhm.
I urge you, even if you have $1, $2, I don't care if it's 50 cents. Just
Yeah.
just throw it in there. You're not gonna miss $5 out of your pocket.
For sure. It's a good cause.
And if for nothing else, you're able to write a little, your name or something else in there. And if for nothing else, tell Dane he's an asshole and donate $5. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just know you're donating the money for these kids that need help.
Yeah. Again, we have nothing to do with it. It's just directly to them. But it seems like a good cause. So,
I think they're doing a really nice thing by doing that.
For sure. And we do want to commend them for doing this. I believe it was an entire week of donations that they did.
Mhm.
So that's really cool of them.
So
There
if
is
we
some
can help in
common
any
ground
way,
that could be had. We all think that that's a good cause for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's about the entire situation. Oh, actually,
we have to go back to
I
that.
am wrong. I was going to say excuse me,
Let's go
adding it back to it. So yeah, so you had tweeted out about DJ Eric kind of sharing these questions without actually talking to you and basically cutting off the whole chance of there ever being any sort of conversation in the future where you were somewhat angered. It probably didn't come from a place of love or anything like that. But DJ Eric, one more question. Since you took the questions you asked me for and gave them to Dane to mock, how can you be this big of an asshole? Again, a little bit of
That's my question.
A little bit anger in this, but you deleted the tweets, but not the DMs. So that was the other thing too. It looks like he did try to at least hide some of the tweets from the conversation.
But I find them.
Yeah, but he couldn't delete the DMs, and that was the reason why you felt it was okay to share these. Since then, this has been used as a weapon against you. But sorry, I guess I didn't read the last sentence on there. We had plans to have a nice talk and bring our groups together, which was the whole purpose of this. But that seems to be, laid by the wayside. Instead, we have so many more intentions that were placed on us. We thought that this could be a way to not actually have conflict between these groups anymore. And we tried to make many attempts to kind of bridge that gap. So at this point, you had tagged me on it. Look at this shit, Grey Poupée. And then, I came in with, it's really sad that, DJ Eric wouldn't even have this conversation after saying he would and approving some questions just for a jumping off point on this conversation. I thought maybe I could link somebody else in there and maybe Dane would see this. But there's no way to ever know if Dane would ever see this. But yeah. Now, to all of this, I don't have the DMs from your side of it, but it seems like DJ did have a bunch of excuses as to why this conversation will not happen and that it's your fault now.
It is my fault now. So DJ did reach out to me in the DM after he saw my tweet. And, I basically said what I said, you're an asshole for doing that. And I hope you're happy with yourself because, this is counterintuitive to what we're all trying or supposedly what they're trying to do and definitely what I'm trying to do. So he reached out to me and he's upset that I let that small, tiny, teeny snippet of the DM out. But he wrote me, and I'm going to read his entire fucking DM now. So he sends me, okay, a couple things here. I understand why you were pissed off, and I acknowledge that. I can't really do anything about how you feel, so I guess all I can do is respect that. I also don't like sharing private conversations with people without a two-party consent. Or something dangerous like a threat, etc. I don't know where the fuck threat is coming from in here, but apparently, okay.
And apparently, having somebody do a stream about your DMs that doesn't count in this or anything like that. That's irrelevant.
Yeah,
but,
sharing it with four people and then having to do a whole thing about mocking us is, that's fine. And you know what? I everybody knows I live in New Jersey. It's part in here, so go fuck yourself. All right. So then he says. So my refusal to go into any detail with you about other people's chats, I would extend to anyone I talk with privately about any subject. With that being said, the only thing I shared with the podcast were the topics, which I didn't feel were in violation of our chat. Well, you didn't ask me, but whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like you got the two-party consent.
No,
only one way.
So they were topics that I wanted to not only share in good faith podcast folks, so they knew what I was doing, what I was going to be discussing, and it was also an effort to get a second opinion on those topics. So he got this opinion and he thought topics were great. Either way, anything outside of those topics or chats here in DMs were kept between of us. So they are privately share anything personal. and I will again take responsibility for sharing the topics, but I will not take responsibility for how they ended up on a stream I wasn't part of. As of right now, I'm still determining the things in regard to that, but not for that instance. So,
yeah, he won't take
okay,
responsibility for that. That could be your fault. That could have been yours.
Right.
That Dane had to talk about that. That's our bad.
It's probably my fault. So it wasn't part of that stream. In it's neither here nor there. So what I will say, looking back on this, how this happened over the last couple of days, there's something that struck me odd, and maybe it was a moment of being upset, quote unquote, on your part, because I kept saying I'm upset, not pissed off. Is how quickly you were willing to share the DMs between us publicly on Twitter in an effort to sort of come after me before actually and asking me about the incident. Now, I find that really fucking funny due to the fact that he discussed this on stream, gave permission to have the questions, but I was supposed to go ask him for.
And then somebody else had a different group of people that convened to mock, what you had said. I don't know. It just seems a little disingenuous, and like he's taking zero responsibility for what happened.
Zero.
Like, hey, I'm not responsible for them, but how dare you? How dare you? It seems very pearl clutchy, but sorry, I'm interrupting this very long.
No. We're halfway through it. So he then says, although nothing in those messages is anything I would simply not admit to, you didn't even give me a chance to respond to this situation before you were ready to out me to the public. Now, I fucking felt that I was already outed to the public because your fucking asshole friends are reading our questions and you're talking about it and fucking go fuck yourself.
No, two unnamed morons were the ones who did this. It's not you.
Right.
Yeah,
It
he
wasn't
didn't out you. Yeah.
No, he just basically talked enough about us to where it's fine. So with this in mind, no, if I'm comfortable moving forward with our questions at this time. After sleeping on it, after sleeping on it, you and I spoke about how we both feel this is important to have this stream. But then I was made a target with private conversations without any direct messages to allow me a chance to try to fix things. What the fuck are you going to fix? You made an asshole out of me. I called you out on it. He says, had I lied to you directly or denied any of our interactions, I can understand it. But you did that immediately without knowing what happened. Oh, I knew what happened.
Didn't get consent. Yeah.
I knew exactly what fucking, it's not like it was a secret and some people were talking in a corner and I'm like, ooh, no, it's all out there you fucking did it. He fucking went on stream and said, yeah, use those questions. I don't give a fuck. Then he says, I think you also assume I'm lying about something because I won't go into personal details about conversations I had with other people. I would like to think you wouldn't want me to talk to other people about things we've discussed without consent.
Like have a stream about it.
Yes. Again, I think general topics are fair game as I presented them in the effort to notify my podcast partners on what we would be talking about. Nothing personal was included. As adults, I cannot control what other people do, but I can control what I do here. And I think it's pretty obvious that I don't feel comfortable right now moving forward. I'm certain you probably have some misgivings about the chat because of what happened with Dane, and I respect that. So
I'm sure he does feel uncomfortable. He has put us in a really weird position. And, because of what he shared with Dane, it put him in a very weird position.
Yeah.
Even if he had nothing to do with it. Yeah, I'm sure he is authentically uncomfortable. As well, he should be. But kind of seems like there's some sort of, personal accountability he could be taking on this part that he will not. Instead, it is all you and your sensibilities. Yeah,
and what I find really funny about this whole fucking thing too is that he's like, well, it's my obligation to let my fellow podcasters know what we would be discussing in our topics.
And I don't think you've criticized him for that. We assumed that he would share this with the rest of the initiative. We just didn't assume that he would allow the initiative to do an entire stream on it and mock everything.
But that's the best part. So he says he's obligated to let these fellas know what he's going to talk about. But evidently Dane, according to his, and it's a lie, he fucking bold-faced lied. According to him, Dane doesn't need to ask him permission to then use the questions and mock the whole fucking thing that we had planned to do together for 6 fucking weeks. That I couldn't have been friendlier, stuck up for the guy. I mean, we went out of our way to be cordial. And
I think we might have even burned a bridge or two in the Adam and Sitch's comment section,
and
which
quite frankly,
really sucks.
I don't know who the person was. I don't really remember who we burned that bridge with, but fuck him, because I still kind of stand with, you know what, everybody should have an opportunity to voice their opinions, to come in to shit. What the fuck are we doing on this platform in the first place? You know,
For sure.
we're not Dane.
I thought it was,
we're not gonna,
you know,
yeah.
foster conversation.
We're not gonna block everybody. We're not gonna hide our responses on Twitter. We're not gonna, you know, like, stop being such a pussy. That's not what we're here for. So he says, I also respect your feelings about it, and I understand why you were upset. I just wish you would have contacted me first, because now I am stuck in a position where I don't feel I could go into this with good faith, and I don't want to waste your time.
You should have contacted him directly once, you know, there was a stream mocking you, instead of saying, hey, what the fuck is this? Since that was public, and that stream, you know, obviously it was private. Nobody saw that whatsoever. You know, it was just for, you know, Dane and his
I'm sure he privated it right after, but
oh no, he did. It is privated as of today, but
this is the only fucking video he's never privated immediately. And it was so we would see it, because we were those motherfuckers that he hoped was watching. So
yeah, and again, none of that was personal when he said, you know, these two dumb motherfuckers. I can't remember what else he said. Yeah, none of that was personal. You know, it was all just it was business.
Yeah. He read those questions with the intent of making assholes out of us. Or a fuck you.
Attempt to.
And he got the green light from DJ. So
for sure.
So fuck you, DJ. Like, you know, I was cool as shit with you. I couldn't have been nicer. I couldn't have been more open to this. And you know, and I won't release all the DMs, but you know that I had nothing but good intentions here. And I was trying really hard to bridge a gap. And you could even see it on the stream that we'll release about Ed's thing, that I am saying repeatedly, I am disgusted by the way our groups are treating each other. All we do is talk past each other and talk a lot of shit, like we just listened to for 2 hours. It's fucking bullshit. And I was tired of it. So anyway, this fucking asshole says, where did I leave off? Anyway, good luck with your future projects, and maybe eventually we can have a chat.
Well, I mean, there's hope. There's always a chance.
He's leaving the door open. He also said, P.S. could you send me 5 more questions? Dane needs content for next week.
Well, let's get right on that, because
I got some questions. If I knew they were going to get right to Dane, they would have been way different questions. They would have been like, why do you have that fucking stupid beard? Why do you
what was the thought
like
process behind that mask? Well, it's because Vosh did that once, so you know. But yeah, I guess this really we've kind of talked about everything. Are there any final thoughts that you have on the whole situation? I mean, it appears there's a possibility that maybe someday, eventually, we could talk to Eric, but I kind of feel soured on the whole thing. The way that
I didn't answer that DM. Sorry, I didn't answer that DM. I answered a couple before it when he said, "Let me see what's going on. Let me talk to those guys," and you know, I said to him, I said, you know, you let Dane ruin this for you and for us and for other people. Dane is a really toxic guy. He's very ill. He's very sick in his head, and he's just toxic. He cannot look at something in good faith because he's incapable of it himself. So he takes these things and he immediately looks and says, you know what, this is bad. It's got to be bad because I'm bad and everything is bad. He's very sick, and he's taking people like Bob and Ed and DJ and even that fucking idiot limp dick Carlos Peterson, Charlie, and he's fucking making these assholes out of these guys every day. Like, I know DJ wanted to have that conversation. Otherwise, why would he have entertained talking to me for 6 fucking weeks? Yeah. Why would you do that? Like, am I such a jerk off that you had to strategically go about making an asshole out of me and what we're trying to do here?
I hope that he is able to take a step back and kind of see the situation for what it is, not just from his perspective, because it seems like you'd have to really bend over in a bunch of weird contortionist ways to make that fit, that it's somehow your fault that all of this went down. I hope he really is able to see it, even if he's not able to say that at this point, because I don't know, this situation, it's a really bad look.
It's terrible. And that's why he didn't want these DMs or whatever. That's why he got pissed that I called him out in front of everybody. But you know what? You called me out. You called us out. So what the fuck do you expect me to do? I'm not going to have the same trust in you when you do something like that. Why would I trust somebody if they fuck me over like that? Now, if I had taken the stuff that, say the roles were reversed and I took DJ's questions and I brought them to you, and we had a better stream and invited all the guys on, and we just spent 3 hours ripping the shit apart, talking about how fucked up DJ is and how bad he is, and you know what is how bad his intent, they would be livid. They would be so upset.
There is no way that would be acceptable and under any circumstance in their point of view.
And I told
you know that there's no way they'd have a conversation with us after that.
No.
And
I
it would
told
be rightfully so.
Yeah, and I told DJ because he kept saying, "Oh, I get why you're pissed. I get why you're pissed." I'm not fucking pissed at DJ. I was disappointed with him. I'm upset about it. I'm pissed at Dane because Dane is a fucking asshole. Like,
well, I kind of expect that from Dane, but
yeah, right, exactly. Which I thought maybe that's why I didn't reach out to Dane, because I already know Dane's a jerk off. Like,
yeah,
I reached out to DJ, or I reached out to guys like Ed, or even Bob. I would give the benefit of the doubt, because I thought, you know what? Okay, here's an opportunity for us to do something good.
Yeah,
and
maybe they'll actually have a conversation. But yeah. Well, I think that about says everything on this situation. But you know, I hope you guys can see this from the other side. I can see it from your perspective, and I feel like your actions were not justified. I hope one day you'll see it from ours. And
one last thing.
Yes, sir.
And I said this to Eric in our final interaction via DM. He said, "I understand you don't want to do this, blah blah blah," and I said, "I will never allow someone like Dane to stop me from trying to do good things, and to stop me on my mission that he created this monster, and he'll find out all about it soon. But I will never stop because of someone like Dane."
For sure.
So,
and you shouldn't have to. Indeed. Fuck you, Dane.